to come home to. You'd be so nice by the fire while the breeze on high sang a lullaby. You'd be all that I could desire under stars chilled by the winter, under an August moon burning above. You'd be so nice, you'd be paradise to come home to and love.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Santa Barbara City Council meeting of December 12th, 2017 to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Hotchkiss. Here. Councilmember White. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Dominguez. Here. Councilmember Rouse. Here. Councilmember Hart. Here. Councilmember Murillo. Here. Mayor Schneider.
Here. Thank you. Before we get on to the other items of the agenda, we've asked for Fire Chief McElroy to give us an update on the Thomas fire, and I know he's brought some other people here as well. So thank you first and you and the whole team for everything that you're doing this last week or 8 days, and thank you for being here.
I hope, it is live. Okay. Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. We're in I believe the 9th day of the Thomas fire. Started last Monday, and I think we're approaching or surpassing 7,000 personnel on the fire at this time, and I've never seen anything like it in my career. So it's really been an extraordinary experience. We're going to have some people from Federal Team 4, represented by Rocky Opliger, and Jeff Pemberton from CAL FIRE Team 4, Incident Management Team that are running the fire, speak to us today. And also Sean Collins, I want to mention him for public information from CAL FIRE Team 4, which has come to be known as Team 44. And they're going to give you the update on the fire. And Lee Waldron, who has been our liaison to the fire and to the teams, is going to show you an evacuation map we developed for the community. One of the questions that I've been most frequently asked by evacuees is, where is the fire in relationship to our home? And with the help of Bill Lupo from IT and some Mike Hoos at the incident and the GIS team associated with the incident, we've been able to develop an interactive map that we'll debut here today that'll allow you to look at the evacuation zone, the general map of the front country of Santa Barbara. The fire is outlined in that map, and you can zoom in to where your house is or your evacuation zone is. You'll be able to measure with a mile marker in the lower left corner the distance between your house and where the fire's leading edge is. And I think that will give people that are out of their homes a better idea. With the amount of smoke we've had, people know there's a fire, but they don't know exactly where it is, and some of the images that they see are really frightening. So we hope that this will help. One of the things that we're real believers in mutual aid at the Santa Barbara City Fire Department, and we believe in sending our people out because when we need help, the rest of the state responds. And one of the things that I really notice and I really value when we send people out, the thing that I've learned is when something does happen, When I walked into the Ventura County Fairgrounds today, there were more people in the command area that I knew than I didn't know. And so the relationships and the relationships you build over time and over decades working in fires with different people come in very handy when everybody's in our op area. We have a really good interoperability working relationships with the people inside of Santa Barbara County. But when people come in from out of the area and we know them as well, it just extends that feeling. And so I'm very happy about how that's worked out. And today I'd like to start by introducing Jeff Pemberton from CAL FIRE Team 4.
Thank you, Chief and Madam Mayor and members of the council and constituents from the community. Thank you for allowing us into your community. It's not the way we would have wanted the invite for December, but we are here. We're here to bolster your local fire departments and to be side by side, if not a step behind, to make sure that everything that you guys have asked of them is able to be accomplished. You've already heard that we have two teams here, one from the national side, from the United States Forest Service, and one from the state on the CAL FIRE side. Within those teams, as you've kind of heard, we have a blending not only of CAL FIRE and state employees, but local employees from every local government entity that's willing to participate, and that's what makes us strong as a organization. And just like the chief was discussing, we like to say it's not who are you as you arrive at an incident, but how are you? Because those relationships that we've built over our career are absolutely crucial. Just to give you a little update on the fire, it's 234,200 acres. It has slowed down quite a bit in the last couple of days, which we're very fortunate for. It's allowed us to get ahead of it. We've got some good work being done. We're still at 20% contained, and we are over 7,000 people that we've brought to this community. One thing that's important is incident commanders we look at is fatigue on our folks and travel time to and from the line every day. So in doing that, and with the fire moving up the front country here into Santa Barbara proper, or I should say Santa Barbara County, we have started to set up another camp just off Highway 154. So we're slowly, as the Ventura side gets closed up, we're shifting those resources over to us over here. We still have just under 100,000 folks that are evacuated, and we're just under $50 million to date for the fire. Aircraft-wise, we have 28 helicopters assigned. Some of those are very large helicopters. Some of them are small. We're using those at every opportunity that we can when the air is clear. The other aircraft that you may see as the air clears up a little bit is 6 fixed-wing aircraft, as well as 2 of what we call VLATs, very large air tankers, and those are the DC-10s and the 747. So as soon as that air is clear enough and safe enough to put those resources to work, we absolutely are to try and slow this fire down so we can get ground resources in to follow up and build containment lines. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Chief Oplinger, who's one of our other ICs from Incident Management Team 4, and he's going to give you an operational update. Thank you.
Again, good afternoon. It's an honor certainly to address the citizens, not only that you represent for Santa Barbara City, but the county and the entire United States. The Thomas Fire, which is the #1 priority in the U.S. right now, and we've been able to access resources from all over the country. We have engines that have shown up from Montana and Idaho and Arizona. But I think, as the chief said, as Pat had said, it's about those relationships and working together as a team, whether it's law enforcement, whether it's the fire entities, whether it's utility company, it's everybody working together for a common goal. And the #1 priority will always be public and life safety. And for the citizens, I can't thank them enough for cooperating. You know, law enforcement has a difficult job as it is. You know, I can put my fire shirt on as my partner does, and, you know, we're the ones out there, that have to make some of those tough decisions, but those really difficult decisions when they're knocking on people's doors and making notifications and creating those roadblocks, we often forget the men and women that serve in that part of the emergency management, that they certainly need that recognition. As we've seen this fire, I think after the initial response, what was it, on the 4th, and shortly after midnight on the 5th, it made a 15-mile run. At one time, the fire behavior they experienced, talking to our fire behavior analyst, the specialist from the science side, said that's about a football field a second or an acre a second at the height of that. When we take a look at what happened previous nights after that, we had runs of 5 miles and 6 miles running to the due west. where we see now that it's positioned not only above Carpinteria and Montecito as it sits up in Toro Canyon, it's actually moved a little bit to the west in Romero. It's poised in a very difficult position for firefighters to access. Yesterday we had pretty good air that we were finally able to see the support we get from the aviation assets. As Chief said, 33 helicopters assigned. We had both the VLAS, both the 747 DC-10 and 6 additional large tankers supporting that operations. And it's basically held. We've had a movement of, I think, of about 1,700, 1,800 acres total, and a lot of that's to the northwest into the national forest. So they built contingencies that we said if the fire were to continue, and we set those evacuation orders in effect if it were to continue to move to the west. As we take a look at the west, we have Gibraltar and we have Windy Gap, which is actually one of the few areas that we have direct dozer line and fuel breaks all the way down from Camino Cielo Road to the bottom. But we're confident where it is right now in the efforts that we're going to do every effort to hold that. The fire, because it's had smoke kind of laying over and we didn't get those significant runs down canyon, has actually been more of a backing fire. And most people saw that last night, that while we can't put firefighters in there, it's actually reaching our attainment objectives of the lines that we have above the communities that run east and west. And so we've really focused. That's our number one priority, again, is always life safety. The second part is a whole different fire front that's occurring in the national forest. And what really truly affects the citizens of both Summerlin, Montecito, Santa Barbara City is your watershed. And we often forget that when you lose your watershed, any rains that you get after that, the sediment problems really is a hindrance and a damage to your water system. So while we have a priority of life safety, we haven't forgot that we have resources that are focusing in on that part of it. Fortunately, in a robust fire area that you've had, and most of us have been on the fires here from the Zaca fire. Last year I had the Sherpa fire, and we've had previous fires that were utilizing Jesucitas Gap. We have those fires that on the north end of this thing, the fire's been able to run into it, and it's actually slowed down significantly because of that age class of fuels. That isn't the old brush that we saw in Matilaha that had no precedent history, I think back to 1932. And so that's the other difficult thing when we take a look at our humidity. We had 1% humidity in Montecito, and it's been in the single digits since the 8th. That's unprecedented. We have a component called the inter-release component that talks about what will sustain that fire, and you just set all high records, precedent records, and here it is during the holiday seasons. And so on behalf of us, the operation is unified because we really have done a great job. As the fire has moved from east to west, they're able to get almost all the evacuation orders and people back in place in Ventura City. In county, we still have fire that is approaching the Sespe Wilderness. We're happy to say that at least the Condor Sanctuary is safe at this time. And those are those other areas we consider besides the life property, the natural resources. And then, finally, the men and women that committed during this holiday season that are out there on the fire lines. Well, we're the command side of that come up with the approving of the tactical plan that's implemented and making sure that we're meeting the needs of all the cooperators and agencies involved. It's the young men and women that are out there every day. And while we talk about our high priority and the highest priority of life safety, that also means our emergency responders, both from law enforcement and fire, that are out on those daily lines running 24 hours a day as we rotate the crews in and out. And so I commend them every day, and we do, for those folks that have committed to do that in the protection of the communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. Lee Waldron, Operations Chief for the Fire Department. I just wanted to spend a minute talking about what's probably foremost on everyone's mind after the smoke. I know that's a big one, but the evacuation process for the fire. So you can see the map on the screen, and that is a result of quite a bit of work over the years by all the agencies on the South Coast and within the county of Santa Barbara. Each one of those districts or areas represents an evacuation zone. And you can see from the different colors, the red, the green, those are the zones that are either in an evacuation order or an evacuation warning. So Generally, the way it works is we put something in a warning. As the fire moves closer to that area, we'll put it into an order, and as the fire continues to move, we'll continue to do that. So the fire and the liaisons and the operations people have been working to develop this plan based on a plan that's in existence for those areas. So we've basically identified action points on that map, and when the fire reaches those action points, we pull the trigger and we evacuate a zone. This map is an interactive map also that was developed largely by Bill Lupo, who's sitting here to my right, so I don't take any credit for it. But what you can do is you can zoom in on your property. You can click on your property there, and it'll tell you how far you are from the fire, what zone you're in, and give you an idea of how far you are from the fire. This interactive little measurement up there, Bill, can you help me out here? So I haven't used this before.
I'm going to back up in a second. And
you know you're in trouble when the IT guy has trouble operating it.
waiting for it to open. There's a measure ruler up here that will let somebody measure distance. And once we select the measurement piece, you could click once and find your location, see how far away you are, essentially as the crow flies at this point. Go back and see that it's, the distance is 7.5 miles in that particular incident.
Can you type in your address on that?
Yes, you can. Up in the upper
Yeah,
left
that's
here,
what I thought.
you can enter, if you want to enter address, it will.
Do you have an address you're interested in, Councilman Hotchkiss? All right, I'll just put in a random address here. So that takes you right to the street, and then you can continue on, do what Bill did before, measure your distance to the fire. It tells you what zone you're in. It tells you by the color whether it's under warning or order or nothing. So.
And where is this located on the city website? Where is this map?
It will be by tonight.
It will be by tonight. So everyone's now searching for it. So by tonight they'll. You just launched it. Yes, please come on up.
Madam Mayor, council members, we just finished it before coming over here today, and so we're going to make it available to anybody through county OEM, city EOC, whatever websites want to carry it. We'll offer it up to them.
With directions, I hope.
With directions,
Okay.
it's pretty simple, just for the basic being able to zoom in and adjust the map will move, and you can see where your house is in relationship to the fire. And that's the big question that everybody has: is I'm seeing this stuff, but it doesn't get granular enough for them to see where is it and compared to where I live. So this will allow them to do that,
That's great.
And we can update it too as if the fire does move. And so with that, I think we're done. Unless you have any questions.
I think, Mr. Casey, you
Yeah.
had, before we get to questions, there's some other people who needed to speak. So why don't we do all that first?
Thank you, Madam
and then
Mayor.
we'll open it.
First, I want to thank Chief McElroy for his leadership and his communication and communicating with the public during the last 8 days. He does an outstanding job, not only for us, but for the whole community. I also want to say that communication is about as important a thing the city can do during a fire like this. I want to thank Nina Johnson and Yoli McGlinchey, who've been the two most point persons within the city organization getting information out. For people watching at home, we have a crawl going across the screen now that is sending you to the city's website. Sign up for our Twitter feed and other information sources so that we are sending out information constantly, but you need to get assigned to that. Also, make sure you've signed up for awareandprepare.org to get the text messaging that gets sent out if you haven't done that as well. And so that's really crucial. Just want to quickly mention, our brethren to the south in Ventura City and Ventura County were really devastated by the fire in the first couple days, lost hundreds of structures. We've been assisting both the county and the city of Ventura with what our process and handouts and information that we had after the T fire so that they can kind of get a head start on the rebuilding process and not have to start from scratch. But they've got a big recovery road coming ahead, and hopefully we don't have that situation here on the South Coast. I wanted to bring up Jessica Cariente from the library. With the schools being out and the air quality, exactly, on cue, and the air quality being so bad, a lot of people are struggling about what to do with children and youth in the community and what kind of indoor activities. And so I just want to talk about the library as resources to folks. And so if she could just...
Good afternoon, Mayor Schneider, council members. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon to talk about the library's response to the Thomas Fire, because responding to emergencies and crises is a critical role that our library does play. We have parents with kids who I'm sure have been home a few days too many already and are looking for things to do and are coming to the library. People who have lost power due to the fire are coming to all of our branches to power up their devices, to use our computers. People who just need shelter from the air are in all of our branches. And people looking for sources for reliable information are coming to the library. They're calling the library. People who may not follow Twitter, they call the library to figure out what information they should be looking at. And really anyone just seeking companionship and community is encouraged to come to the library, and they do. We have increased all of our programming and classes for children since school is out this week. Families can drop by any time that the library is open to build with Legos in our learning lab. We have winter crafts available. We have board games all day long. Central Library staff also are putting on additional story times, additional coding classes, robotic classes, and our tech lab will be open for video games and virtual reality sessions as well. Eastside also has a slate of expanded programs, and as always, we have all of our books and movies available for checkout, and if you can't make it to the library, look at our digital downloads such as Hoopla or Overdrive. And for a complete list of all of our programs this week, sbplibrary.org. And I also want to point out that the Central Library downtown is also a designated N95 mask distribution center. We've handed out tens of thousands of masks, it seems like, which is all being manned and staffed by the library. And the fire maps have been updated and are available for review at the library as well. And we just really want our community to know that we're here for them. Come to the library if you're looking to have a sense of normalcy in your day. We're here to provide that for you. And we just encourage everyone, especially downtown, to come to the Central Library, enjoy the free parking at either lot next door, come in and get your free N95 mask, enjoy a free library program, check out some free library materials, and then go enjoy lunch or support one of our local shops. And lastly, I want to just commend the library team. I work with a tremendous team that is they're so responsive and put the community first and forefront. And at all of our branches, as the fire hit Montecito and the Carpinteria areas, a lot of the staff that worked at those libraries did have to evacuate. And our Central Library staff responded to that and are manning those stations in order to keep those libraries open as much as possible for our public. And that's it from the library, unless there are any questions.
That's great news. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, just two quick things. Ms. Cariente mentioned it. We are not staffing the public parking lots right now, primarily due to the air quality of the employees, but also to encourage people to come downtown. It is smoky, but it is the holiday season, and to support shopping downtown any way we can. We're also going to start street sweeping up tomorrow in the residential neighborhoods to try to start collecting some of the ash. We are not going to ticket for street sweeping violations and the no parking, but we really encourage the community to try to comply with it, because the street sweeping will be more effective if there aren't cars parked in the way. So if people could try to abide by the street sweeping, but we know some people might be out of town and left a car, and so we won't be ticketing for the remainder of this week, but we really encourage people to try to comply just to start trying to get some of the ash off the streets and out of the public right-of-way.
And those vehicles do use a little bit of water when they sweep, so it's not going to re-aerate the ash. So that's different than people sweeping.
Correct. We don't want, people need to be careful about sweeping, and we certainly don't want people using blowers to try to blow the ash, because that only just aerates it more and gets it in the air.
Great. Anything else, Chief? Or Nina? Okay. Okay, now open for questions. I'll just go down the line. Mr. Hotchkiss.
On the eastern side of Montecito, where there are mandatory evacuation areas now, any idea how much longer those will continue to be mandatory?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Hotchkiss, right now, it's going to be days. It's going to be days, and I would not expect. I don't know if you guys want to address that or. Sure.
Plan on days, but we are very hopeful that in the short term, 2 days, maybe 3, we're going to be able to repopulate some of those folks from the county line working back towards county.
Thank you.
Mr. Dominguez?
Regarding the air quality, what are your suggestions regarding people and using masks? And then what are you predicting or seeing in terms of the winds and when we can expect return to healthy air quality?
I think we're looking at this type of condition for the next 2 days and then a weather change on Friday, if I'm right. We're hoping on Friday. And that's, we're a little nervous about that prospect on Friday because it will bring some winds with it. And that's why we're working so hard right now to try to get out ahead of the fire. And so if we do get winds on, we have stronger containment lines. And there's planning going on. When you drive through the evacuated areas, there's strike team after strike team after strike team after strike team. So while you're not in your neighborhood, there's just a massive amount of engines that are doing preparation in the neighborhoods all through the evacuation areas.
So
and also, I was going to follow up with that, Councilmember Dominguez. At 4 o'clock today and every day, we're doing briefings from San Marcos High, and they're televised. And Dr. Charity Dean, who's a doctor with Santa Barbara County Public Health, has been great briefings on the quality of the air. And it's not really my area of expertise, but that stuff is available. And I believe it's available online as well.
Yep.
And it seemed like she indicated that they should leave the area because of the air quality, at least for a couple hours a day. She indicated that your lungs are able to discharge some of the toxins. And so is the air still at that state where her recommendations is something you would repeat?
I would believe that if you have the ability to do that, you should take advantage of it. I know a lot of people just don't have the ability to do that. And so if that's the case, staying indoors and reducing the amount of your physical activity is the next best alternative.
Right, and it seemed like the other reasons that people are being suggested to leave is to reduce the electrical demand and then vehicular demand, particularly in the voluntary or mandatory evacuation areas. Is that something you would?
Yeah, I think that the main thing about the evacuation areas is heavy fire traffic and civilian traffic is a really bad mix. You have two opposing interests going on. So people should, if you are in an evacuation warning zone, should really limit your driving for a number of reasons. But one of the big ones is if we have engines in there scouting out your area, they're looking at something different than you are. And so I think that's where we run into trouble in those areas. But limiting any type of travel that you can do right now is a wise idea.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Rouse?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief McElroy, you and I have spoken a number of times about what kind of cooperation there is in terms of interagency and cross-jurisdictional, and I just want to make a comment about how impressive that is and also acknowledge Chief Luno back there and her folks and what they're doing. And I was at the Edison briefing yesterday morning, and it's amazing that given where the fire is and where it's been, that we have the lights on in here right now. It's pretty incredible. So there's a lot of great effort. And lastly, you really know how to throw a hell of a retirement party, Chief. Yeah. So
it's really there's zero linkage. And thank you for mentioning Chief Luno. Santa Barbara PD has been involved in this from the very beginning. They have people assigned at the county EOC, and they have people assigned at the incident command post at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. And Chief Luno and I talk several times a day. We're leaving here to do a taping for Spanish language television on the update of the fire, which we started yesterday. So we have a really strong partnership with the Santa Barbara Police Department on this.
Great. Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I just want to congratulate everybody involved in the incredible communications effort. It has really helped a lot. People, I think, are getting very high quality, accurate, immediate information, and that's doing a lot to keep folks calm and cooperative. And I think it's an extraordinary testimony to the community that people have had a lot of experience with fires. They're prepared to take care of themselves and to do the right thing and to listen to the information that's coming from the public safety responders. So everything that you're doing, from Nina Johnson with her tweets to Mr. Lupo's new graphic interface, all the briefings, all of the communications have been really professional and high quality. And I've heard over and over again from people that they feel really safe in the sense that everything that's possibly being done is being done with the thousands of people from all over the country here to help us, and that the weather has been cooperating to a certain degree in the last couple of days, and that there's a tremendous plan in place strategically to handle this situation and to communicate that to the residents. And it's really, thank you for being here today to help share this information. Everything that you're doing is working really, really well.
Well, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Hart, thank you very much. I think that I say this every chance I get in these meetings, is Santa Barbara is a really fire-wise community. I mean, people that have lived here 10 years have been through a lot of fires. And so we don't need to scare people into evacuating. We need to just be as calm as we can, give them the best information that we can. And then we ask them to leave, they leave. And they leave orderly and quietly. I was in the middle of the evacuation, Toro Canyon and East Montecito, when that evacuation order was called. And it was incredibly orderly. And like I said, we owe this information to the people we're asking to evacuate. I mean, if we're asking you to do something like that, we owe you information. And the team has been fantastic in having these daily trips up to Santa Barbara to present at town halls or meetings like this, because they realize that that's part of their responsibility as well.
Ms. Murillo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks so much for your presentation today and the information and for fighting the fires, and Red Cross and all of the support groups as well. I just wanted to piggyback onto Ms. Cadiente's comments about activities for children. There's a lot of families who need daycare because they take their kids to school and then they go work. And so I just wanted to let the public know, and please spread the word among our families with children, that the Westside Boys and Girls Club, the Boys and Girls Club on East Cannon Perdido, and Casa de la Raza all have daycare. I know you're not doing daycare at the library, right? You can't just drop your kid off there, but you can at those other locations. I think you have to fill out a form and register, but we need to spread the word for parents who don't have alternatives when their kids are out of classes. And thanks, Chief, for everything. Thanks.
Mr. Hotchkiss, did you have something else?
Just one quick thing. I was up in the fire area yesterday, and I didn't know that apparently you all inventory all the houses in the mandatory area. Could you explain that a little bit? Because that's really a marvelous research item.
I'd really like to have Chief Pemberton, probably, or Chief Operator.
So we're both a little hesitant because we haven't completed the product yet, but we had just left a meeting downtown in Ventura with our other commanders, and we literally have got the GIS data. We've got every house on a map. We've got the total number of houses for every street, and the amount of strike teams, the engines that we have plugged into those communities is tremendous. So we know exactly where every one of them has been placed and how many are within that community.
Well, and not only that, driving by there, little yellow stickers that say pool, no turnaround, or pool with pump, or whatever. You've got this all done out.
Those are Wildland Urban Interface, we call them WUI placards. And if we have the time, obviously Ventura didn't the first night of the fire. They were a little busy. But we've had the time to get resources in here to go through those communities and do just that. Go to each house, make sure it's got defensible space, see if it's got a pool that can help us so we can draft water out of it. See if the residents did evacuate, if they're in a mandatory evacuation area. Some people don't like to go. We would encourage you to go. That allows us to know that. And then if there's any special hazards for us, whether it be propane or other type of products that would be in the home that would be significantly hazardous to the troops.
It was impressive research. Thank you.
You're welcome.
While you're up there, Chief, so first off, there'll be, I know, a more comprehensive update at 4 o'clock today at San Marcos High School, so thank you for coming here a little early. So last night you saw a lot of flame because the wind had changed. You're able to see it, but it was also, I understand, a backfire to help assist in the firefighting efforts. Do we expect to see something like that tonight? So if we do see flames in the hills, to know that that's part of the overall big picture plan, or is there anything that we should think about into the evening this evening?
So what it did last night was exactly what we wanted it to do. It's bringing that fire down to us in a very slow marching methodical process. Where we can, we're going in and lighting those fires, where we can draw it down and close those doors as we march up and then try and make that right-hand turn and take it back towards the National Forest. What we have seen night after night is down canyon winds, and every night we roll out of our incident command post and hope that we don't get those. There are winds predicted tonight, just like there was last night in the lower ranges, just the lower double digits. If those start to escalate for some reason that our meteorologists couldn't predict, then we'll see that fire move down quicker, and that's not what we want. But the way it's progressing now, you'll see it, we call it rollout, so it's actually something will roll that's on fire down a couple hundred yards below the actual flaming front. It'll heat up a little bit, and then it'll make an upslope run to where it was burning and allow us to just piece by piece burn out that vegetation, which is what we want as it comes down to the community. We don't want the down canyon winds.
Right. Thank you. Mr. Dominguez, did you have something?
I wanted to follow up the interviews taking place in Spanish. I noticed yesterday's meeting was on the YouTube, I think the police department YouTube. Where should we be directing our friends, neighbors, families that are monolingual Spanish for Spanish language information?
I think the county website now. But go ahead, Chief.
County website, and I believe Sean, you have information on that? On
Please come up to the mic. Thank you, sir.
Madam Mayor and Board, we have a variety of websites that are available, not only the county website, but there's the city website. There's also links through the interagency with INCIWeb, we know that in the federal world, INCIWeb, that's got a multitude, and also the CAL FIRE information page. And all of those are linked. We also have social media pages with the Los Padres National Forest Facebook page. And also, City of Ventura has somebody in our shop who is putting that out as well. So there's links backwards and forwards to everybody, and our objective is to have a one-stop shop with our Fire Joint Information Center, which then pushes out all of that information jointly to all the various social media and interactive platforms. So hopefully that'll anywhere that anybody goes to will get the same information there or thereabouts, and it's linked backwards and forwards.
Great. I know the county website and the city website has links to all those things that you just mentioned, so that might be the first place to go, and then you can get directed to other pieces. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you.
Great. I also just want to commend the media for just hour after hour, day after day, live coverage, constant postings, whether it's print or online or TV or radio. It's really been helping, I know, everyone involved in getting the word out. So just to commend everyone involved in that. So thank you so much. We'll let you get back to work, and really appreciate, we hope to hear very good news in a short period of time. And I know it's not just about hope, it's you have a plan, and that's we're very pleased to hear that. And I know so far the plan's going very well here anyway. So thank you very much for being here today. Okay. Okay, so on to the rest of the agenda. We do have a ceremony item 1.
Item 1, recognition and remembrance of victims of gun violence.
It's a big week. This is to acknowledge it was 5 years ago Sandy Hook happened, so thank you for being here. So this is in solemn remembrance of victims of gun violence, in honor of those who lost their lives or sustained injuries in Sandy Hook, Isla Vista, Goleta, Santa Barbara, and Las Vegas, as well as the 38,000 plus lives lost each year in America. December 14, 2017 will mark 5 years since the shooting massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary School, where 20 children and 6 educators were killed in Newtown, Connecticut in a horrific and heinous act of violence. Goleta, Isla Vista, and Santa Barbara communities continue to mourn and remember the victims of local mass shootings, including the 6 lives lost at the Goleta Post Office on January 30th, 2006, the 6 lives lost and 13 injured in Isla Vista on May 23rd, 2014, and the loss of Dr. Henry Hahn, Jenny Hahn, and their daughter Emily on March 23rd, 2016, and the loss of Denise Cohen and Derek Bo Taylor in Las Vegas, October 1st, 2017. Our nation continues to grieve with the families of the 38,000 plus people who die annually in America due to senseless gun violence incidents. Recent high-profile mass shootings have finally opened the eyes of our nation to the reality that gun violence is a major public health and safety issue, resulting in tens of thousands of deaths and injuries, as well as a national economic burden estimated at $100 to $126 billion annually. December 14th, 2017, I believe we might be postponing this, but we were to come together at the sanctuary to with honor with action the victims of Sandy Hook, the Goleta Post Office, Isla Vista, the Hahn family, and Denise and Bo, and to remember the 38,000 plus lives lost nationally. So therefore, I, Helene Schneider, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Santa Barbara, want to encourage the local community to join the nationwide remembrance of and tribute to those who have lost their lives to gun violence, both locally and nationally. And thank you to the coalition for over 20 years for keeping us aware and involved. And perhaps you want to talk about later today, but thank you for your work for many years. Thank you.
Give this to everyone here, around here. Thank you, Madam Mayor and City Council. Pardon me. The Coalition Against Gun Violence, along with the Unitarian Society, we're part of a national vigil, the 5th year that has taken place. The vigil is going on from December 6th to 17th across the country. Many victims, as the Mayor Schneider has mentioned, and excuse me, due to the emergency situation, a decision has been made to postpone our interfaith vigil, but we do request that on December 14th, Thursday, people light a candle of remembrance in honor with action for the 38,000 people, the 38,000 Americans who have died from ongoing gun violence. It's a public health epidemic. And let the candle burn down to the bottom of the wick. Please do visit the Coalition's website and our posts on social media to support efforts to reduce gun violence. As one of the many thousands of evacuees, I want to personally thank profusely the firefighters who are working diligently and who very dramatically saved in the middle of the night. My neighborhood, Shepherd Mesa, no houses were burned. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So Thursday's event has been postponed, and but thank you so much for being here. I'm glad we were able to at least acknowledge this here today. So thank you. Okay, any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Item 25 on your agenda, it was the appeal of the Single Family Design Board's project design approval of a new single-unit residence at 1625 Overlook Lane. Just earlier today, we received a letter from the appellant withdrawing the appeal. They've come to an agreement with the applicant, and so there is no need for the appeal.
News. Great. Okay, public comment. I have a number of public comment speaker slips here, and we have 2 minutes here at the podium. We'll start with Thomas Welch, to be followed by Phil Walker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the Council. My name is Thomas Welch. I am the Vice President of SEIU Local 620, and I represent the Treatment and Patrol Bargaining Unit of city employees working for the Airport, Harbor, and Water Resources Division. I just wanted to take a moment, in addition to thanking all the firefighters for all their hard work, protecting the community. I wanted to acknowledge all the SEIU employees many are disaster services workers who are reporting to work without knowing the conditions of their homes. Several coworkers we have are in Santa Paula, Ventura, Carpinteria, and didn't know the status of their homes, but they showed up to work. They kept the water going, the wastewater flowing, and all the other essential services. County employees showing up to work, working with the fire department to make sure all services are up. I know everything from the city and county websites are employees, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge everyone who's working with the fire department to make sure all our services are being provided. Thanks.
Thank you. Phil Walker, and then Pete Del Bello.
Good afternoon, Madam, my throat's gravelly today, too. I live right below the Sycamore Canyon burn area, and I'm still getting a lot of ash, and it brings back memories. Hydration is so important with all this ash, the little bit of heat we've had down here and everything, and I remember the neurologist telling me after I suffered the subcortical brain hemorrhage at El Estero, part of the reasons that tripped it off were due to dehydration. And it's interesting to know it was during the Hesacita fire, May 19th, 2009. There were 3 other cases just like mine that night at Cottage, and Dr. Philip DeLeo was called in to back up Dr. Charles Lowenthal. But he attributed it to the stressors and dehydration, and fires create a lot of auxiliary problems beyond the ember storm and the flame front. So watch your hydration. Another thing I've noticed, so many palms, especially the Mexican fan palms, people have allowed the skirts to go, from the top down to the ground, and they become, again, I'll say it, incendiary air-to-surface missiles, and they're just one thing that can be cleaned up, costs some money, but let's give the firefighters, they're putting their lives on the line, a little bit more space to deal directly with the fire rather than other things that the homeowners and on the streets, some city palms have reached the same point, so time goes by and it's going by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Pete Del Bello, and I see Michael and Jose and Anna, you're giving your 2 minutes to Mr. Del Bello, so you have up to 8 minutes, and then you'll be followed by Kirk Mueller.
Madam Mayor and City Council, my name is Pete Del Bello, and I'm a Santa Barbara native. I want to thank the fire department for their continued good work. As you might remember, Sunday was my birthday. I turned 29 again. Of course, I got a lot of mail. My favorite came from the city of Santa Barbara. Look at this. Isn't this something? City of Santa Barbara. And I'll briefly read from it. At 9 a.m. on Wednesday, December 20th, at 630 Garden Street, it is a notice of hearing to suspend or revoke the application of Ryan Howe, 118 North Milpas. Ryan Howe and his Milpas marijuana dispensary. So I invite everyone to come or watch it on Channel 18. As mentioned last week, I would reveal Ryan Howe's political contributions. Since I've always been a man of my word, here we go. The Canopy Health and Wellness Center, which is the business name of the Milpas Dispensary, gave 2 $1,000 donations to Kathy Murillo's campaign for mayor. The first donation was on September 22nd, which was 9 days after Staff Hearing Officer Susan Reardon announced at the SHO hearing that the dispensary was going to be investigated by the city attorney's office. I'm guessing the donations were in cash, since the Canopy can't have a checking account. Now, Mr. Howe gave $1,000 to Greg Hart's campaign for city council on October 29th. But according to California Form 460, the Hart campaign received a $1,000 donation from Rain Stevens Management and Consulting. Rain Stevens, I have this right here, was started by Ryan Howe while he was in Toluca Lake. It was suspended by the Secretary of State, and since Rain Stevens can't do business while suspended, that donation is illegal. Rain Stevens was also on the lease for the dispensary at 118 North Milpas Street. Isn't that interesting? And here's Secretary of State shows it's been suspended. And been suspended for a while, I might add. On page 4 of my March 27, 2016 letter, in advance of the May 10th, 2016 hearing before the mayor and city council regarding the Milpas dispensary, I wrote the following. Since Joe Allen is a supporter of Mayor Helene Schneider's campaign for Congress, I call on the mayor to remove herself from being a part of the appeal hearing due to conflict of interest. Madam Mayor, you didn't recuse yourself. A couple of points about Joe Allen, who was Ryan Howe's attorney, and I've since proven was also Mr. Howe's business partner. Mr. Allen is now no longer eligible to practice law in California. According to this document from the State Bar Court of California, Joe Allen was suspended, and it was filed on March 29, 2016. The hearing before the mayor and city council was May 10th. And Mr. Allen continued to present himself as an attorney in good standing. He couldn't do this, so the May 10th hearing should be invalid. According to the FEC, isn't that nice? Got all this research. It's really come in handy. Mr. Allen donated $5,400 to Helene Schneider for Congress. Ryan Howe donated $5,400. Howe donated $400 of that on March 31st after he knew I filed my appeal of the Planning Commission's March 17th decision. Let's see. Thomas Martin, a grower connected with the dispensary, donated $2,000. Irene Howe, who is Ryan Howe's mother, donated $1,000. Isn't that nice of Rich Ryan's mama? Emily Allen, Joe Allen's daughter, donated $783. Vicki Allen, Joe Allen's wife, donated $750. For those of you keeping score at home, that's $15,333 from people with strong ties to the Milpas dispensary. Madam Mayor, I wish I knew about all this last year. You should have recused yourself. Conflict of interest is a violation of the public trust. You had the deciding vote in a 4-3 decision. And that's why that dispensary is there on Milpas. It's a good thing that you have less than a month left. Otherwise, I would call for your resignation. Well, Ryan Howe's permit can still be revoked on December 20th. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole Milpas mess is corruption in Santa Barbara. Ryan Howe's marijuana dreams could go up in smoke. Thank God we have an excellent fire department. Thank you for your time and kind attention.
Kirk Muller will be followed by Mike Woods.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for taking the time to hear my comment. I understand this is not only the last meeting of the year, but the fact that the Council will look differently next year. I want my comment to be an announcement and possibly a goal to work towards next year. As a contractor, my days consist of performing site visits, speaking with clients, and looking at plan sets for new construction. There's a massive fallacy and disservice being perpetuated during the process of building a new home. 2016 Title 24 code requires new construction to be solar ready. However, the solar ready standard established by Title 24 is very weak and by industry standards not even close to what is needed to incorporate solar into the new building. I have yet to come across a plan set that has enough solar ready roof space. I have yet to walk a job with the correct electrical infrastructure to incorporate solar. And I have yet to speak with a client that has a solar ready building that is truly ready for solar. What can we do to further Santa Barbara's goal of integrating renewable energy into new buildings? What can we do to protect the homeowner from misleading expectations? We can, as a city, do what 12 other cities and counties across California have already done. Cities including Santa Monica, San Mateo, Lancaster, and San Francisco. Santa Barbara can utilize the power given to it by Public Resource Code Section 25402.1. We can legislate an ordinance that takes the next step in integrating renewables into new construction by mandating all new construction be built with installed solar power and doing away with the fallacy of solar ready. Have a great holiday season and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Woods, and then Paulina Khan, and then Lanny Ebenstein will be the final speaker.
Madam Mayor and Council, my name is Mike Woods. I'm the Field Operations Supervisor for Local 620. Want to kind of follow up on what some of the folks have said. I'd like to acknowledge what the fire department's been doing during this fire to help folks out. Also, I'd like to, at this point in time, acknowledge the work of the city employees of Santa Barbara. The fact that, you know, they're operating at full capacity. Some of them are working 24 hours a day, some of the divisions. Wastewater, water treatment, streets, you know, during this fire, they've been keeping street lights working, you know, signal lights, you know, and everything is working, you know, during these power outages. The IT departments are keeping your websites up, communications are flowing, getting out important emergency information, you know, and it's a great job that they're doing, and I think they need to be acknowledged for it. Also, I wanted to add that some of your sister agencies out there are helping the employees who have been affected by the fire, such areas as homes that were lost or they've been in mandatory evacuation areas. One of the things that I've been contacted by a couple of different agencies like the County of Santa Barbara and the Santa Barbara Superior Courts is they are giving employees paid time off if they've been affected in those areas. You know, they've restricted it to so many hours depending on what they were. If it was a mandatory evacuation, you know, they can give them up to 40 hours of paid time off, you know, because they were evacuated and they have to move things and move their families around, things like that, instead of having them use their own personal leave banks. The county is giving up to 80 hours for folks who have lost their home, time off with pay, you know, to recover from their losses. So I just wanted to bring that up as an idea for the council to take into consideration and maybe pass that along and to help the folks out here that work within the city that have had those problems. You have a lot of folks here who live in Ventura, Oxnard, and commute from those areas that were restricted from getting to work at times. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and thank you for all your work. Paulina Khan?
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I, too, want to thank the firefighters and the media. I happen to live in the evacuation warning zone, and we have been glued to the television and the computer and to the radio. So thank you all very, very much for your excellent communications. I am here this afternoon to present to you a nomination document for the Old Mission area, Western Riviera, and Mission Canyon area for historic landmark status as a historic site. This would include the historic landscape of the area. I am also requesting that you return the bridge funds for the Mission Creek Bridge alterations. That's structure number 51C0051. It is structurally sound. This money was meant for bridges that were not structurally sound, and this money should be given to a community that really needs these funds. There are fewer and fewer taxpayer dollars available. The Mission Creek Bridge is in a historic landscape that is 3/4 in the county and only 1/4 in the city. I'd like you to consider that. I would also like you to not hire the firm to do the study for this bridge. It is not a safety issue. I assume you all know that Imadinari is 3 days of tens of thousands of people in that particular corridor, and I have phoned the police department. There have not been any accidents. The cars park on the sidewalk and the people walk in the street, and the roads are still open without police traffic, whatever you call it. So I would like to hand to you this document, this nomination. It has already been given to the City Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission and also the County Historic Landmarks Advisory Commission. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you also for all your work that you have done during this this fire season. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Lanny Ebenstein.
Mayor Schneider, members of the council, thank you for your service to our community. Councilmember Murillo, congratulations on your election as mayor. Councilmember Hart, congratulations on your reelection. I'm here to second Paulina Kahn's comments today. The nomination that she has prepared for the Mission Canyon, Los Olivos, Riviera area, Alameda Padre Serra, it's an outstanding document with more information contained in one place, and photographs and sketches going back to the early 1800s that I've ever seen collected in one place before, and it's a document that will have much use for many purposes in the coming years, including the nomination that she has prepared, as well as the pending nominations of Rocky Nook Park in the County of Santa Barbara for historic landmark status, and stone walls adjacent to the Santa Barbara Mission and Mission Bridge for historic landmark status in the city of Santa Barbara. Like Mrs. Kahn, I'm very concerned about the proposal for widening Mission Creek Bridge by 11 feet and using those funds, which would be utilized on a structurally sound bridge. The issue isn't that that something is wrong with the bridge. Rather, the issue is the functionality of contemporary standards with approaches and accesses from bridges in terms of how straight those accesses are, and that's the concern rather than the functionality and safety of the bridge itself. So those thoughts, we thank you for your consideration, and we look forward to further contact on these issues.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. Onto the consent calendar. There's some items to read, a whole bunch of them, I think.
Item 3, introduction of ordinance to authorize land exchange agreement with Santa Barbara Unified School District. Recommend that council introduce and subsequently adopt, by reading of title only, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving and authorizing the city administrator to execute a land exchange agreement with Santa Barbara Unified School District to accept land at Fire Station Number 5 and dispose of unused land at the East Side Library property. Adopt, by reading of title only, a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara accepting that certain real property commonly known as Fire Station Number 5 at 2505 Modoc Road, being a portion of La Cumbre Junior High School. Item 4, subject introduction of ordinance for Second Amendment to amend restated lease number 12037.4 with Signature Flight Support Corporation. Recommendation that council introduce and subsequently adopt, by reading of title only, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving an amendment to amend restated lease number 12037.4 between the city and Signature Flight Support Corporation, a California corporation, amending term, rent, surrender, holding over, Federal Aviation Administration requirements, adding Title VI list of non-discrimination acts and authorities, and certified access to take effect upon the effective date of the ordinance. Item 5, subject, introduction of ordinance for Third Amendment to amended lease number 21267.3 with Mercury Air Center, Santa Barbara, Inc., DBA Atlantic Aviation. Recommendation that council introduce and subsequently adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving an amendment to amend lease number 21267.3 between the city and Mercury Air Center, Santa Barbara, Inc., DBA Atlantic Aviation, a California corporation, amending premises, term, rent, surrender, holding over, Federal Aviation Administration requirements, adding Title VI list of non-discrimination acts and authorities, and certified access to take effect upon the effective date of the ordinance. Item 6, subject, introduction of ordinances approving 2017 through 2019 Supervisors Bargaining Unit Memorandum of Understanding and Management Salary Plans for fiscal years 2018 and 2019. Recommendation that council ratify the Memorandum of Understanding with the Santa Barbara City Supervisory Employees Bargaining Unit through introduction and subsequent adoption of, by reading of title only, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara adopting the 2017 through 2019 Supervisors Memorandum of Understanding, and introduce and subsequently adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving the salary plans for unrepresented managers and professional attorneys for fiscal year 2018 and fiscal year 2019, providing a 1% salary increase in July 2017 and a 1% salary increase in July 2018 for all managers, including executive management and the city administrator. Special salary adjustments effective July 2017 to address compaction and alignment issues for certain non-executive classifications, and special salary adjustments effective January 2018 to address labor market inequities for certain management classifications, including the following executive management classifications: 3.5% assistant city manager, 1.8% public works director, 1% community development director, 8.1% Parks and Recreation Director, 11.7% Library Director, 9.9% Administrative Services Director. Item 7, subject, adoption of ordinance establishing authority for water consumption estimating and billing procedures. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending the Municipal Code Title 14, Water and Sewer, to establish authority for billing based on estimated water consumption when an accurate water meter read is not available. Item 8, subject, adoption of ordinance for EV charging station permits. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the City of Santa Barbara establishing procedures for expediting permit processing for electric vehicle charging systems. Item 9, subject, records destruction for airport department. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara relating to the destruction of records held by the airport department. Item 10, subject, records destruction for Parks and Recreation Department. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara relating to the destruction of records held by the Parks and Recreation Department in the Administration, Parks, and Rec Divisions. Item 11, subject, a resolution upholding the appeal and overturning the decision of the Historic Landmarks Commission to deny installation of artificial turf in the Plaza Lawn area at Area C of the Hotel Californian located at 35-118 State Street. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara upholding the appeal and overturning the decision of the Historic Landmarks Commission to deny installation of artificial turf in the Plaza Lawn area at Area C of the Hotel Californian located at 35-118 State Street, making findings supporting the action. Item 12, subject, adoption of revised minimum standard requirements for airport aeronautics activities. Recommendation that council adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara approving the revised minimum standard requirements for airport aeronautical activities at the Santa Barbara Airport and repealing resolution number 14-079.
That's it?
I think so.
Okay. All right. Without further objection, we'll waive further reading. I know I have speaker slips for 6, 15, 19, and then 4 and 5, just if there are any questions. I don't know if anyone has a statement on 4 or 5. I'm not seeing that. So if I'm incorrect, please let me know. Any others from council?
Item 17.
17?
Item 3.
3?
Comment on 3.
Comment on 3. Okay. Any others?
I need to vote separately on item 11,
11.
please.
Okay. All right. So let's go in order. Item 3, which is, if you could read item 3. And if that's one of the ones you didn't. Oh, no, you did read it. This is the land swap between the
Right.
Unified School District and the city. Yeah. Mr. White.
Thank you. This item is one that's been on the city's radar for a very long time. And I just want to compliment staff and both the city and the school district having taken this, having grappled with this. This is an exchange of pieces of land. It seems like it's been stuck in micro disputes for decades. And these two organizations got together and got a piece of business done that's long overdue. They need to be congratulated and thanked for finally getting it done. So thank you so much.
Yeah, ditto to that. Mr. Hart, did you have
Yeah, I
something
just
on this?
wanted to add, I appreciate Councilmember White acknowledging that work on our staff, and I do want to especially thank the school district staff. I think this has been on our radar for a very long time, and it's taken a while for the school district staff to get to a place where they're comfortable with this exchange. But this is in the best interest of both agencies, and as the taxpayers, I think, would appreciate knowing that the staffs work so collaboratively, and want to just thank the school district staff for finally executing this agreement.
Great. Okay, so 4 or 5, there's no comments. It's just people available for questions, correct? Okay, so we're going to move on to item 6. There's some speaker slips here. Thomas Welch, and then Annette Nino is here. There you are, and you're donating your 2 minutes. So, Mr. Welch, you have up to 4 minutes, and then Mike Woods after you.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Thomas Welch. I'm Vice President of SEIU Local 620 and Chairperson for the Treatment and Patrol Bargaining Unit. I'm here to discuss salary adjustments for the staff in the Water Resources Division. The inequity adjustments being recommended are a result of the third salary survey conducted by the city and continue the trend of underpaying wastewater workers relative to their water counterparts. The first salary survey was conducted by the city during negotiations with the TAP unit. This was narrow in scope of job classes surveyed, but set the agencies that would become comparables for subsequent surveys. We found this survey to have several flaws that have been perpetuated through the other surveys. First of all, these surveys are conducted by a consultant who recommends they be used as a tool for setting salary, not as a standard. The analogy we've been tossing around is this is like reading the Kelley Blue Book and setting your car price on the first number you see at the dealer trade-in, which is the lowest, and not looking at the market, complete market, maybe private party sales, other types of sales that would actually give you a better view of the market. Secondly, the agencies are being used as comparables do not always adequately represent the job market for the Water Resources Division. Some job classes have as few as 6 comparables within the 20 agencies surveyed. These surveys limit comparable agencies to only full-service municipalities, and that excludes many special districts and other cities that directly compete with us for employees. We've lost several employees to Montecito Sanitary District and other surrounding agencies. Lastly, I believe the California Equal Pay Act and the Fair Pay Act of 2017 may support comparing some jobs to internal comparisons instead of outside comparables. From the California Department of Industrial Relations, the amended Equal Pay Act prohibits an employer from paying any of its employees wage rates that are less than what it pays employees of the opposite sex or of other race or ethnicity for substantial similar work when viewed as a composite of skill, effort, responsibility, and performed under similar working conditions. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an expert in employment law, but I am familiar with the city's organizational values. The city values the worth and dignity of all employees and individuals and will provide equal opportunities for all. The city values the diversity of experience, skill, outlook, and style that is brought to city service by each individual. The city values candor, honesty, integrity, and accountability as ways of earning the public's trust. The city values the productivity and achievement of our employees and are committed to the creation of an environment for their personal growth and satisfaction. Lastly, the city values the decisive leadership that is provided by competent and knowledgeable professions. I believe these values empower your management staff to make their own recommendations to you that take into account other factors besides a consultant's report. I believe the city should be an example to the community, especially when it comes to compliance with applicable laws, and it should meet and even exceed the minimum standard required by law. I urge City Council to direct staff to work collaboratively with all the affected bargaining units to ensure all staff get paid fairly without having to involve legal proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woods?
Madam Mayor and Council, Mike Woods with SEIU Local 620 again. I don't disagree with the fact that employees in the city do not deserve an appropriate wage for the work that they do. Okay. What I'm confused about is the salary study that's just done for supervisors and management. What is the cost of all those inequities? The other confusing part for me is there's a July 8th amount of money going out and then a January 6th amount of money going out. And looking over those documents, there's several jobs getting money in July and then the same jobs getting money in January. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would they not get all their inequity monies at the same time like they do with every other bargaining unit in the city? So there was, in the supervisory division, there were 7 jobs that were getting money in July and January, and in the management, there was 10. So it's kind of confusing why they're doing it in separate dates. It should all, in my opinion, should be all at once. Anyway, that being said, the past 3 salary studies, as was brought up before, was done by a consultant that does not take in consideration the compaction that can occur when you split off positions. As an example, you take the wastewater supervisor and the water treatment plant supervisors and you split them into separate categories. What happens is eventually one of those jobs is going to make more money than the other one. So you're not having equal pay for similar work. In our opinions, wastewater people, water treatment people, they're doing the same or similar work, working with dangerous chemicals and the whole bit, so there should not be any separation in what they're being paid. So the internal alignment is where it comes from. You're changing the internal alignment that's been there for many, many years within the city, and in the last 3 surveys that have been done, salary studies, they've changed that internal alignment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything on this item? Okay. Then item 11 is the appeal that was brought forth. Ms. Murillo?
I just need to vote separately.
Okay, so this is item 11. Can we have a motion for item 11? Moved by Rouse, second by Hart. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, 6-1, Murillo opposed. So that takes care of item 11. Item 15, Phil Walker, come on up. And 15, was that already read into the record? Before you start, Mr. Walker, this is, if you can read item 15.
Item 15, professional services contract with Fairbanks, Maslin, Mullen, Metz and Associates, FM3 for water quality public awareness research.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Good afternoon again, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. I was late to the game, so to speak, but over the last several weeks I've walked the Andrea Clark Bird Refuge several times in my lifetime since 1964 around here. I've never seen it in I'll say a sad, very sad state. I'm sure the residents of the El Escorial don't like looking at a mud bank, and it's essentially the salt pond it originally was is reverting back. That's the estuary for Sycamore Creek that was diverted when they built the railroad embankment, either in the 1890s late or the early 1900s. And something has happened. You know, we had 22, 24 inches of rain right down in the neighborhood on the east side, and there was some pretty extreme sheet flows in the storm system that should have dumped in there, but there has been some changes on the Montecito Country Club golf course as far as the very large sand berm or bunker system on the periphery, the southern perimeter of the golf course there along Old Coast Highway. So hopefully they can find a way and wherewithal to work that into the water quality study, or maybe it's time to look about bringing it back into a semi-estuary state, and salt water is maybe the way of the future. So it should be involved in that water quality study that's looking at nearshore and offshore and all the water quality concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just in response to that, the Sustainability Committee had a meeting last week about the bird refuge with some options that's going to come to council February or so.
Right.
So stay tuned for that.
You know, and my wife, one quick thing, Quack and Quacker are two ducks. My stepson, her little boy was, Quack and Quacker were released at the bird refuge.
Well, there you go.
Take care.
Stay tuned for that. All right, and then item 19. Ms. Pleiser, come on up. This is, if you could read item 19, please.
Item 19, approval of participation agreement with California Statewide Communities Development Authority for property assessed clean energy financing program.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members. My name is Krista Pleiser. I'm with the Santa Barbara Association of Realtors, and wanted to first off say we really wish this wasn't going forward, but since it is, wanted to thank you and the staff for making sure that the PACE program has a lot of the consumer protections that we brought forward, a lot of our concerns that we had. There were a couple of things that we just wanted to bring to your attention. Insofar as reporting, we noticed that there is going to be reporting coming in, and when asking staff how that reporting is going to be done, it's going to be done just via paper and go across staff's desk. It would be great if some of that reporting can come here to City Council so it can be out in the public and the public knows what this program is doing, because that is one of the biggest concerns with this program is consumer protection. The other thing is that just for a minor change is in the recordings of the conversations with each consumer. It says the record retention needs to be 5 years. We request that actually gets changed to 7 years, and the reason being for that is because 7 years is the normal retention for documents that people know, and that would just kind of help out with the average person knowing how long documents are recorded. Also, just wanted to say that it's really important to make sure that there's an apples-to-apples comparison when looking at all the information coming in for consumers. And one last thing is, not sure if you saw it, but FHA is now no longer going to be insuring any type of properties that have PACE. So they yanked it, so now it's only the VA that will do it. So with that, I thank you, and if there are any questions, I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on this? All right, one last item, which was item 17. If you can read that item.
Item 17, contract for design of the Cabrillo Boulevard and Union Pacific Railroad Bridge project.
Thank you, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, I just want to recuse myself from the vote to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest since I work at the Santa Barbara County Association of Governments.
Okay, so is there a motion for item 17?
Move item 17, Madam Mayor.
Moved by Murillo, second by Rouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention from Hart, so 601. Okay, and then I think we've done all the speaker slips, so is there a motion for the balance of the consent agenda? All right, moved by Hotchkiss, second by White. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. All right, thank you. Most of the room is going to leave now, I bet. There we go. All right. Report from the Finance Committee, Mr. Hart.
Madam Mayor, the Finance Committee met and discussed the comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2017, and also considered and unanimously recommended the council adopt the report, which I believe is on our consent
We
agenda?
just did.
We just did. Thank you. And then the other item that was on the agenda was a discussion about the solid waste rates and billing system simplification process. That item will be coming back to the Finance Committee next year for more discussion.
Great. Okay, so item 25, that appeal has been withdrawn from Overlook Lane, so we move on to item 26.
Item 26, subject appeal of the Planning Commission's certification of the final environmental impact report, EIR, for the airport master plan.
Thank you. This is an appeal, so as appeals go, this is the process. We'll have a staff report. We'll have ability for any airport commissioners at this point to speak to that. Any questions from council? Then the appellant will have up to 20 minutes to get their presentation. They don't need to use the whole 20 minutes, but they have it. We'll have then, the city is the applicant, so there's not a second 20-minute thing. They'll go up to public comment, and then after public comment, any time left over from your 20 minutes, if you'd like to reserve after the public comment, you'll have at that point. And then it'll be to the council, and it'll stay up here unless we have any specific questions for anyone of you down there. Before we get started, any ex parte communications from council to anyone in reference to this appeal? On this appeal, I'll just say way before the appeal was issued, I had casual conversations with Mayor Perotti and council members Kyle Richards and Stuart Kaysen before they were sworn in. This was a year ago already, so it was a long time ago, but just to bring up the issue. And with that, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor and the City Council. I'm Andrew Bermond, the planner for this project. I'll go briefly over the purpose of the appeal. As you've already described, I'll be brief there. I'll give an overview of the airport master plan's project description. I'll go over the elements of a few elements of the final EIR. Then I'll address the appeal issues that are in the letter, the appeal letter, and discuss prior review, and then conclude. So the purpose of the meeting is to consider the appeal of Michelle Green, the city manager of the City of Goleta, appealing Planning Commission's certification of the Airport Master Plan final EIR on August 10th, 2017. The standard of review for an EIR is found in CEQA Guidelines Section 15090, which is that an EIR is completed in compliance with CEQA, it is presented, reviewed, and approved by the lead agency, and that it reflects the lead agency's independent judgment and analysis. The airport master plan is for the Santa Barbara Airport, which I think we all know is located in the Goleta Valley. It's surrounded on three sides by the city of Goleta, and to the south by UC Santa Barbara and the Pacific Ocean, approximately 6 miles from the remainder of the city of Santa Barbara. The purpose of the master plan is to guide development at the Santa Barbara Airport for the next 15 to 20 years. It focuses on the relocation and improvement of general aviation that's not commercial aircraft facilities, airfield safety improvements, the consolidation of terminal parking around the terminal area, and then ultimately in the outer years, airline terminal expansion. Spatially, it looks like this. There's a lot going on, so I'll try to break that into its three main components. The first is the airfield recommendation, which is a number of safety improvements to improve light lanes, clean up some expansive pavement, and extend the taxiway on the north side of the main runway all the way to its west end. It's called Taxiway H in all of your documents. The north side recommendation includes a lot of reorganization of general aviation facilities, increasing T-hangar and small aircraft parking on the west side, and then on the east side, expansion of FBO facilities, both approximately 22.5-acre parcels on the north side. And the reason for relocation of the second FBO on the north side, it comes out of the terminal recommendation, which is to revision the FBO that's on the south side of the airfield as space for airline terminal parking. So an environmental impact report was prepared. We look at a bunch of CEQA issue areas, and I'll show you how quickly how we break that down. We first eliminate the areas where we have no potential for environmental impact, agriculture and mineral resources in this case. And the general plan addresses the areas where we have less than significant effects that do not extend beyond what was envisioned in the general plan EIR. And we're left with potentially significant impacts to air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, geology and soils, and hazardous materials, land use, transportation, and utilities. And I'm not going to go over all of those because that's a lot, and you will have big documents sitting on the dais. So I will focus on transportation and land use because those are the two that were brought up in the appeal letter. First are the Class 1 impacts in the transportation section. Impact T-2 is cumulative impact in the intermediate term horizon, contribution of 14 p.m. peak hour trips to an impacted intersection at Hollister and Kellogg Avenues. This exceeds the City of Santa Barbara's cumulative impact threshold, so it's considered significant. And also then in the long-term planning horizon, 2032, contributing trips at Fairview and US 101 southbound ramps, as well as at Hollister and Kellogg Avenue. Still, in this case, that would exceed both the City of Santa Barbara and the City of Galida's cumulative impact thresholds. So mitigation is proposed for both of those, T/MM1 and 2. One would provide for an equitable share contribution to improvements at those two identified intersections, and the -2 would implement transportation demand management measures such as van pool, bus, bike lockers, etc., that are all specified in general plan policies. The resulting impact after mitigation remains significant because the City of Santa Barbara cannot implement and cannot set the schedule for those improvements. Those are in another jurisdiction, or the responsibility of another jurisdiction. So although the mitigation would reduce the impact to less than significant, it is possible that a significant impact would still occur because the improvements were not made at the time that the traffic was contributed. So the relevant Class 2 impacts relate to land use. The land use impact 4 and 6 refer to consistency with other resource agency concerns, the local coastal program and the Goleta Slough Ecological Reserve boundary, which are the responsibilities of the California Coastal Commission and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, respectively. Both of those inconsistencies would be addressed through mitigation measures, LU/MM1 and LU/MM2. And additionally, LU/MM3 would address the cooperative agreement between the city and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is currently the framework for how the Goleta Slough Reserve is managed. It assigns responsibilities between the city and the department as to what is done in the maintenance of the Goleta Slough, as well as setting the boundary. So spatially, the Goleta Slough Reserve boundary would look like this. There's a portion there in blue that would be the location of the proposed taxiway extension, and then these two areas in brown are proposed to be added to the reserve boundary, which would offset spatially the loss in acreage. So just to summarize all of the other impacts that I've not really gone over is that there's one beneficial impact that's the relocation of historic structures out of the floodway, a number of less than significant impacts, and less than significant impacts after mitigation. That's through the use of 17 mitigation measures that are found in the EIR. But there still remain two significant unavoidable impacts, and those are the two traffic ones I mentioned. So let's get into the City of Goleta's appeal issues. On August 17th and 18th, the City of Goleta filed an appeal letter asserting that the concerns with the land use and planning assessment, the use of a future traffic baseline, the traffic impacts studies inadequacy, and the adequacy of the mitigation. The letters are provided in the CIR. Firstly, the land use and planning concern had to do with those land use impacts and mitigations that I just mentioned, that the Coastal Commission and the Department of Fish and Game are outside of the City of Santa Barbara's authority. The mitigation measures should result in Galida's assertion that in resulting significant impact. However, the mitigation measures would require the airport to complete the work before issuing permits or beginning construction. I don't think it's reasonable to imagine that the airport would construct absent the authority to do so. The future traffic baseline assertion, it refers to a payment of traffic mitigation fees that was contemplated in 2003 in the Aviation Facilities Plan, the last planning document for the airport. And since those fees were not paid, the City of Goleta asserts that using existing baseline is inappropriate. This doesn't comport with the data, however, because the existing traffic is significantly lower than what was envisioned or even what was existing in 2003. Here I've showed basically the forecasted versus actual enplanements. That's people getting on an aircraft, and generally speaking, for airline terminals, you double that figure to have your total number of people coming and going at the airport. The blue line is the forecast in the Aviation Facilities Plan in 2003. That forecast was not met. In fact, the actual enplanements had a steady decline over that 10-year period. The Airport Master Plan forecast is a slightly less aggressive forecast and remains above existing condition. However, it remains possible that introduction of new air service, this sawtooth could continue to fluctuate. So it's tough to say. And if we look at historic trends, we can see that that certainly does happen with recessions or with airfare reductions that happen in sort of nationwide trends. You will end up with dramatic changes in operations at the Santa Barbara Airport. So despite the volatility here, we still use aviation forecasting. I don't want to discredit it as being overly optimistic, but I just want to point out that the forecast is not a prediction of what shall happen. The City of Goleta also had concerns about the traffic impact study. It had previously assumed the proposed roundabouts at Hollister Avenue and 217 ramps would be constructed, and the saturation rate at those intersections was inappropriately assumed. So we had revised in the final EIR the traffic study and the traffic section in the EIR to consider both flow rates existing and after the project. It didn't result in a change in traffic impact significance, but that information is disclosed in the document. The City of Goleta also voiced a concern about mitigation measure T/MM1. That's the requirement to pay equitable share to the projects that are programmed to improve the impact intersections. The City of Goleta asserts that the Goleta Transportation Improvement Plan fees should be paid to the City of Goleta instead of a equitable share mitigation, and that the Airport Industrial Specific Plan Policy VC2, which was approved by City Council in 1998, required an agreement for traffic mitigation fees between the City of Santa Barbara and the County of Santa Barbara. The City of Goleta is the local agency for the intersections that were contemplated at that time, and so the City of Goleta asserts that the lack of an agreement results in a significant unavoidable impact. So the Airport Master Plan North Side would contribute fewer trips than what was contemplated in the Airport Industrial Specific Plan back in 1998, about 600 fewer trips per day. So it's not clear that the same mitigation requirement, well, it's clear that the same mitigation requirement isn't necessary, but the new mitigation requirement of paying a fair share cost allocation for the impacted intersections disclosed in this document seems to be a reasonable interpretation of compliance with that 1998 policy. So I just want to go over a little bit how the Airport Master Plan got to here. The environmental impact report began in 2004 with an initial study that was reviewed at Planning Commission. And the draft EIR was reviewed in 2015 at environmental hearings at both Airport Commission and Planning Commission. Following public comment, the impacts were reassessed and a recirculated draft was released in 2016, and public hearings were held at Airport Commission and Planning Commission again. And then in August, the the Planning Commission considered certification of the final EIR. And at that meeting, they unanimously certified it, that it was completed in compliance with CEQA, presented to, reviewed, and approved by the Planning Commission, and that it reflected their independent judgment analysis. So staff's recommendation is just that you consider the appeal of Ms. Green and either, that's the city manager of the city of Goleta, and either uphold Planning Commission certification supporting and making similar supporting environmental findings that are attachment 8, or that overturn Planning Commission certification with direction to staff to make revisions to the EIR. And that concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions to staff? Okay. Any airport commissioners would you like to speak to this at this point? No. Okay. All right. We have the appellant come on up and welcome. I'll put 20 minutes here at the podium. You can see the clock right there. You can introduce yourself. And
yes, good afternoon, Mayor and council members, and thank you very much for taking the time this afternoon to hear this appeal, especially with so much happening right now in our area. I have two originals of the letters that we submitted yesterday to supplement our August letter.
For the record, too?
I will. I'm Peter Imhoff, Planning Director for the City of Goleta, and with me is Marty Milan, our Principal Civil Engineer. So I'd like to just submit those letters for this item and the next item, and I will stay well within the 20-minute mark so to respect your time. Let me begin by just observing that the major issue, the big picture on the South Coast and in the Goleta area in particular, is that traffic congestion is increasing as land uses intensify. And that's true in the city of Goleta, and it's equally true in the areas adjacent to the city of Goleta, including the adjacent city of Santa Barbara. And simply because of the geography of the area and the jurisdictional boundaries, the land use decisions of both of our cities affect both jurisdictions directly. Traffic and congestion are common issues that are of concern to both of us, and as a result, these issues really deserve coordinated solutions and a collaborative approach. The Santa Barbara Airport in particular is a major trip generator that has immediate effects on the city of Goleta. And the airport, as staff noted, is surrounded on three sides by the city of Goleta, and it really dominates the geography of the city. So while it's always important for our two cities to work together cooperatively, it is even more important that we work together on airport-related matters, as anything airport-related has an outsized effect on the city of Goleta. In the case of the new airport master plan, it is vital that we have an adequate EIR that recognizes, discloses, and mitigates impacts on the city of Goleta. And unfortunately, we don't have that here. As outlined in our letters, both the original letter we submitted in August and the supplemental comment letter we sent to you yesterday, the EIR certified by the Planning Commission suffers from a number of legal inadequacies. You're already aware of the City of Goleta's traffic-related concerns regarding development elsewhere in the airport area. Chief among them are concern about the City of Santa Barbara's unwillingness to adequately mitigate traffic impacts on Goleta. And this EIR suffers from the same flaws. Specifically, the EIR fails to include legally adequate mitigation measures that truly mitigate the project's traffic impacts on the City of Goleta. And as we highlight in the two letters, the legal inadequacies in the EIR are not limited to traffic. There are a number of other deficiencies that we point out. First, the EIR fails to integrate in its environmental review process the permitting processes of other agencies with jurisdiction over the project, which is in violation of a recent California Supreme Court case, the Banning Ranch case, Banning Ranch Conservancy versus City of Newport Beach. The EIR also fails to analyze impacts from sea level rise, despite the evidence demonstrating that the project would result in additional impervious surfaces, which would increase surface runoff. And the EIR, moreover, does not analyze a reasonable range of alternatives, does not include an alternative that would reduce or avoid the project's significant effects. And the EIR's GHG emissions analysis fails to include thresholds of significance against which to evaluate the project's climate change impacts and presents no analysis of the project's potential conflicts with applicable GHG reduction targets set forth in SB 32 and Executive Order S305. As one other example, the EIR's analysis of impacts does not address cultural resources sufficiently. It lacks adequate mitigation measures for those impacts to those resources, despite the presence of numerous prehistoric and historic Native American sites in the project area. And those are just a few of the deficiencies that we highlight in our briefs. So today you'll be asked to approve the Airport Master Plan. And that's, of course, a cornerstone document for any airport. This document sets the course for future airport development, and it will result in direct impacts to the city of Goleta. And for this reason, it is imperative that you correct the flaws in this program EIR and ensure that the master plan's impacts are identified, analyzed, and mitigated. Because this EIR does not do so, the city of Goleta respectfully requests that the City Council set aside the Planning Commission's certification of the EIR and take a step back until a legally adequate EIR is prepared that complies with CEQA, including full mitigation of all impacts. And it's really in both cities' interest and to both cities' advantage to address these issues constructively and collaboratively. The more we can work together to address traffic and congestion issues of common concern, the better off everyone, both cities, our residents, our businesses, and our visitors alike will be. So thank you for considering this appeal.
Thank you. There's 15 minutes and 9 seconds should you need it. Question, Mr. Dominguez?
Mr. Imhoff, what are the traffic mitigation measures that you are proposing that we take up?
So the briefs lay out the mitigation measures in great detail, but fundamentally we're asking for the GTIP fees.
At what rate or what total?
And there I would have to refer back to the briefs and to look at that detail. I don't know the exact the GTIP fee where it stands now. The
Do you want to take a second and give me that number? I want to make sure I have the right number in mind.
Certainly. I can also refer to Marty Milan, who has the latest fees. We are reevaluating at this point and updating we're in the process of updating our GTIP fees, so I may not have the most current number.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
The most recent adoption of the City of Goleta's traffic impact fees was $17,036 per PM peak hour trip.
Okay.
And that's the only mitigation measure that you guys would propose is just the payment of the fee?
So again, our the full mitigation measures are laid out in detail in the briefs, and it does go beyond that.
So is the fee the main one?
I believe that's fair to say, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Imhoff, I know you you're very new to this position, having worked at SBCAG before, so and so you inherited this, I know, midway or halfway through or something. This issue has been discussed for a while. Can you tell me when the Goleta City Council voted to pursue this appeal, or what the public process was for that policy decision?
I believe that there have been a number of hearings over the course of the development of the airport master plan over a period of years.
Right. I know there have been public hearings on the airport master plan. I just mean about the decision to appeal.
I can't give you the specific date or meeting.
Okay. Do we have that information?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I have a number of speaker slips for the next item, depending on what we do with this item. I just want to make sure if there are any public comment speaker slips for this item. Okay. So seeing none, I'm going to open and close the public hearing process for the appeal. And unless there's anything, Mr. Imhoff, you want to say but there was no public comment. Okay. So it's to the council. Ms. Murillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for your presentation, sir. With all due respect to the City of Goleta and your staff and your legal position on this matter, Madam Mayor, I support our Planning Commission's approval of the EIR, the certification, and I'd like to move that.
Okay. So you're making a motion
when the time is appropriate. Maybe people want.
Thank you. Well, I'll get back to you on that.
Thank
you, Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
in Mr. Imhoff's presentation, there was an assumption that traffic congestion is increasing everywhere. And yet, as we go through our development and infill models, we actually aren't finding that. And especially in our own airport, where we haven't had the increase that was even projected in the first go-round. It's hard to, as somebody who goes out to that area myself quite a bit, as I look from the intersections from the 217, Fairview, Los Caneros, and Stork, what I see is an incredible amount of development between Stork and the Winchester area. And I can't imagine for the life of me that this industrial build-out that we're talking about, this roll-up door type build-out, is going to create the kind of traffic trips that's going to even make a bump in that Hollister corridor. There's always been an amazing amount of capacity there with 4 lanes, and it's the mitigations for these improvements. When I consider also the underdeveloped properties going from Fairview towards the beach in the Goleta area and other areas like this is going to be a net benefit for both communities, particularly in Goleta. And I think we had the economic benefits study that Mr. Rupert Dr. Rupert helped us out with. So I'm struggling with this from the Goleta's perspective only because I would think that if I am in the city of Goleta, I am rooting for these projects to go through sooner than later for the economic bump and benefit that's bound to inure to everyone in those areas, especially given that there are so many underdeveloped and old buildings there that really do cry out for redevelopment and reuse. So I will be supporting the Planning Commission's position on the EIR.
Mr. Hart?
Well, it seems as though the most salient issue is the traffic generation information in the EIR and its baseline comparison to the previous environmental work. And that is fundamentally the question here. Is what we're proposing more intense than had previously been evaluated as a baseline? And according to what I'm seeing in regards to the presentation you made today, that there are fewer trips that are being proposed from north of Hollister in that sub-area than were originally modeled and agreed to in the previous agreements with the county. And so I'm at a loss as to understand how, from a technical basis, we could City of Goleta is making the argument that this EIR is inadequate in that sense. So I guess it's a question for our staff to help me understand what is the technical basis for the argument that the City of Goleta is making.
Mr. Vinson?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Hart, the first comment I would make is that the baseline is irrespective to the arguments being made by the City of Goleta. The baseline for a traffic analysis starts with the environmental setting that is observed and measured at the time of the preparation of the environmental document. Whether or not traffic mitigation measures have been paid or not paid prior to that date doesn't change how many cars are driving on the street and how those intersections and roadways are functioning. So that would be the comment I would make regarding the baseline argument. As far as your evaluation of the intensity of development proposed under the master plan, you're comparing it to the previously approved airport industrial project. The master plan is removing a portion of the airport industrial project that is south of Hollister. It is taking that out of the airport industrial project and putting on a new airport master plan land use designations to it. And Mr. Bermond can speak to the change in intensity between those two planning proposals.
Mr. Braun?
Madam Mayor, I wanted to point out one fundamental element to the focus, how EIR traffic is assessed. It's in response to anticipated demand that's in the aviation forecast that was prepared for this process and approved by the Federal Aviation Administration. That forecasted demand is anticipated to occur regardless of what action is taken on the airport master plan or any of the alternatives. That is just, and of course we know that forecast is not a promise of what will happen in the future, but it is anticipated that regardless of what development occurs at the airport, that demand will continue to grow and occur. So that's, the development isn't what's driving the anticipated future traffic. It's the economics of the community and travel behavior of our region. In 1998, the Airport Industrial Specific Plan was considering a much more industrial-oriented development on the north side of the airfield, but south of Hollister, than what is proposed in the airport master plan. So when we look at the traffic generation that's anticipated from this proposed master plan, compared to what was in sub-area 1 in the Airport Industrial Specific Plan, we find that there's about a quarter reduction in what build-out would look like.
Well, thank you. That's really helpful, and thanks for orienting me properly and where we're geographically to discussing.
Okay. Any other comments? Go ahead, Mr. Dominguez.
The brief that Mr. Imhoff referred to, is that part of the council packet?
Madam Mayor, no, and Councilmember Dominguez, it is not. It was distributed by email when it was received last night. Additionally, prepared early this morning, staff has a response to those that I'd like to either distribute or give to the clerk to add to the record if that's possible.
So is what he's calling the brief just the letter that we received from Michelle Green?
That's my understanding.
Okay. So I just want to say that was, is this the 11-page letter that you're talking about, Mr. Imhoff?
There are two letters that we submitted yesterday, one for this item and one for the next item.
How come we got them so late in time?
We got them to you as quickly as we could.
And you know, I read it over. It's not. I mean, it doesn't say it's a brief. So I'm curious: is that the one thing we should be focusing on in terms of the correspondence from Goleta? Because there's several letters, and I've read all the letters as well.
There are letters that we submitted in August, and then the letters that we submitted yesterday, and those two together compose the filings that we presented as part of this appeal.
Okay. So what I'm not understanding in your presentation then is you've talked about this monetary amount, and that's the primary thing. I mean, I hate to say it, but it sounds like you're just holding us over the barrel for money.
I mean, I think it goes beyond that. I think, as I highlighted in the presentation I gave, there are a number of inadequacies with the EIR, and we're concerned about...
So what's the primary one?
You know, the letters, I think, lay out, and I tried to highlight...
I'm asking you, this is kind of an oral argument. This is your chance to highlight for the entire world what the biggest, you know, injustice is here that's being carried out.
Traffic is certainly a major concern, and that's certainly a major focus for us. Okay.
So in layman's term, how would you explain this problem with the traffic? You're saying there's more traffic today than there was then?
Yes. I mean, the EIR recognizes cumulative impacts in a couple of different areas at Hollister and Stork, and at the northbound on-ramps on Fairview, Fairview and Hollister. So it's there are a number of different impacts to traffic that are recognized as part of this project. It's a very large airport master plan that
in the EIR.
That are recognized in the EIR. And
isn't that the main purpose of the EIR, to show the impacts? It's not a grading system, and you don't deny a project just because there are impacts.
The concern is that the EIR doesn't adequately mitigate the impacts that it does recognize, and the impacts that it does recognize may themselves not be a comprehensive statement of the full traffic impacts as a result of the master plan.
But if we write a big enough check, that would mitigate the impacts.
You know, again, there are a number of things that could be done to address those
And I'm trying to cull those out of you, but you keep coming back to... that the EIR doesn't address the mitigation, and the mitigation is the money, but then I'm asking, what else can we do?
Well, there are a whole host of impacts that have to be addressed in one way or another, and there are a number of ways in which the EIR could go about addressing those. One way would be to mitigate by constructing projects that directly address those traffic trips. As it happens, the City of Goleta has a transportation improvement program that's set up to do just that. So that is another mechanism by which those impacts could be addressed. And I'm sorry if I'm not more specific, because this is a fairly complex issue. And
that's exactly why we want specifics. Right. We don't want to be going round and round. And as you've laid out, you know, since 2014, you've had concerns. So it seems like at some point there would be a specific project that you want us to focus on.
I think we need to go back and revisit the EIR as part of a more developed process that really grapples with these issues. I don't think we're going to resolve these issues here today, at least not to the city of Goleta's satisfaction.
Right, and that's my concern, is that we've had since 2014 to resolve these issues, and it doesn't seem like we've met and in good faith tried to resolve them. So I'm trying to find out here today if there's a specific project that you guys want us to focus on.
Well, at this point, what we'd like you to do is simply set aside the Planning Commission certification of the EIR so that we can get back into these issues.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Murillo, did you want to make a motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Attorney, do we need to look at some findings before I make a motion?
Mr. Vincent?
Mr. Vincent?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Murillo, the findings that are required for your certification of the EIR are found in one of the attachments to your EIR, or to the council agenda report. I'm getting that reference right now.
Madam Mayor, apologies. It's on the screen. Attachment 8.
Attachment 8. So it would be that first dash there is what I think, Ms. Murillo, you were talking about making that motion. So based on that, uphold the Planning Commission certification, making supporting environmental findings as described in Attachment 8.
So again, with all due respect to Mr. Imhoff and the City of Goleta, I move that we uphold the Planning Commission's EIR certification with the reference to the findings in Attachment 8.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Hotchkiss. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, thank you. We'll move on then to item 27.
Item 27, subject Santa Barbara Airport Master Plan Adoption.
Thank you, Mr. Vermont. Go ahead.
Madam Mayor, hello again. The item before you today is to consider the adoption of the airport master plan and a number of associated plan and zoning amendments. I'll go into those briefly. Again, I'll address the setting and background of the airport master plan. We've already gone over the airport master plan concept, so I'll be very brief there. And then I'll also want to describe the planning and zoning amendments that are proposed along with airport master plan adoption, and then I'll close with the recommendations in the CAR. The purpose of this meeting is to consider Planning Commission's recommendations of August 10th, 2017 to adopt the airport master plan, making a statement of overriding considerations regarding cumulative traffic trips, to amend the airport industrial specific plan, to amend the airport zoning map, and to direct staff to work on amendments to the local coastal program and the cooperative agreement with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. The standard of review for plans is generally described in the City Charter 1507 that land development shall not exceed public services and physical and natural resources, and land use decisions require 5 affirmative votes of the City Council. Another standard of review that we need to consider is the federal requirements for airport master plans as described in an advisory circular titled Airport Master Plans that which defines their purpose as being a comprehensive study of airport short, medium, and long-term development to meet future aviation demand, and it describes a setting of a 15 to 20-year time horizon. So we've already gone over the location. I use this graphic mostly to demonstrate how much goes on at the airport, which typically looks like pretty vacant land compared to most other parts of our community. There's a lot of critical facilities that are all space intensive. They use a lot of area in order to maintain the safety of the airport. And then also, another large, seemingly vacant area is the Goleta Slough Reserve Zone, which provides critical habitat to dozens of species.
And before you get into the history, I'm going to have our clerk read the items that she meant to read right at the beginning of the item. So let's just do that for the record.
Item 27, Santa Barbara Airport Master Plan Adoption. Recommendation that Council adopt by reading of title only A resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara adopting the Santa Barbara Airport Master Plan dated July 2017, making environmental findings and adopting a statement of overriding considerations. Adopt by reading of title only a resolution of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending specific Plan Number 6, Airport Industrial Area, implementing the Airport Master Plan and rescinding Resolution Number 17-072. Introduce and subsequently adopt by reading of title only an ordinance of the Council of the City of Santa Barbara amending Title 29 of the Santa Barbara Municipal Code to amend the airport zoning map to change the boundaries of the Goleta Slough Reserve Zone and specific Plan Number 6, Airport Industrial Area, in order to implement the Airport Master Plan.
Thank you. Good. We need to get that done. So, okay, please continue.
Thank you, ma'am. So just very briefly, the history of the airport began in 1928 when Santa Barbara's fourth airfield, but the first one at Hollister and Fairview Avenue was constructed. In the 1940s, the airport was briefly converted into a Marine Corps air station. It was then returned to the city of Santa Barbara under a quitclaim deed, and in 1960 was annexed into the city of Santa Barbara using what was called the horizontal annexation of Pacific Ocean. The proposed airport master plan would be the fourth planning document for the Santa Barbara Airport. The first two were very broad visions of a very advanced and technical-looking future that was largely unrealized. And in 2003, the aviation facilities plan was mostly implemented. There was a significant projects, including the airline terminal expansion and the runway relocation project to expand the safety areas, which included a creek relocation and a lot of habitat. So unlike the two previous ones, actually quite a lot was done in the 2003 plan. The Airport Master Plan process began in December of 2011 at the first meeting of the Airport Master Plan Advisory Committee and was initiated by City Council in early 2012. The Airport Master Plan was prepared through a number of committee meetings and public workshops and numerous updates to city boards and commissions, including Goleta City Council and the Goleta Slough Management Committee. So I've been doing this throughout these updates. This is where we are now at the end. I also want to remind City Council of the guiding principles of the Santa Barbara Airport, which were adopted in March of 2012, that the Airport Master Plan has values of safety and security, economic vitality, transportation diversity, being a good neighbor in the community, sustainability, environmental preservation, especially with respect to the Goleta Slough, and cultural resource protection, including historic and prehistoric resources. The aviation forecast, which drives the Airport Master Plan's development proposals, is shown here. There's an awful lot going on, but I mean to use this table to show that there's a lot more going on at the airport than just the enplanements at the airline terminal, which most people are familiar with. There's significant air cargo operation that is anticipated to continue to grow, especially as people are making online purchases. And general aviation, we also, especially in the corporate jet side, see substantial growth. A lot of the factors that go into these anticipated growths include the construction and sale of future aircraft. So when we're looking at what air carrier and corporate jets and small private aircraft growth is going to look like in future years, we're looking at construction and orders for new aircraft from buyers. As shown in the previous presentation, the aviation forecast has had is higher than what has been experienced over the course of development of the Airport Master Plan and the Environmental Impact Report. The years 2016 and 2017 have shown steady growth. However, there's a lot of ground for aviation to make up in order to meet that anticipated forecast. The purpose of the master plan, as stated in the FAA advisory circular, is to guide development at the airport for the next 15 to 20 years. It's focused on aviation safety, general aviation improvements, and the airline terminal, including parking. I've already gone over all of this in the previous presentation, so I will slide through this quickly. in order when we did the plans and policies consistency review in the environmental impact report, we identified a number of inconsistencies with existing regulations, including the airport zoning map, the airport local coastal plan zoning map, the Goleta Slough ecosystem management plans policies, and also the policies found in the airport industrial specific plan and the cooperative agreement with the Department of Fish and Wildlife. So a number of proposed amendments are also before you to be considered. The airport and LCP zoning maps, they have their separate processes, but they are identical maps. The idea is that the local coastal plan vision and the zoning ordinance's vision be as identical as possible. There are a number of minor technical revisions here to bring the zoning boundaries in line with federal regulations that define those zones. But importantly, there's the proposal to remove 15.8 acres in the dual zone AAO/GSR zone into just AAO zone, and then to add 17.5 acres currently designated as aviation facilities into the GSR zone. So that would be the action taken on the airport zoning map, and then the recommendation to Coastal Commission for a similar map in the local coastal program. The Goleta Slough Management Plan includes a policy P1 that states that projects should avoid wetland and upland resources. A taxiway H extension would be inconsistent with this policy because it does not avoid those. There are impacts associated with that that are identified in the biological section of that final EIR. Unfortunately, redesign is infeasible because of the FAA design standards for taxiway geometry. The airport master plan proposes a different development pattern, especially with respect to the fixed base operators, than was envisioned in the 1998 airport industrial specific plan. So staff recommends that sub-area 1 be removed from the airport industrial specific plan, and that the airport master plan then supplant that section as the vision for that portion of the airfield. Also, the cooperative agreement, I think I've already gone over sufficiently, but I just want to point out that although taxiway H could be found consistent with Article 3 of the cooperative agreement, which identifies the necessity of the airport and critical facilities, and that the Goleta Slough Reserve would not interfere with those, it is both city and Department of Fish and Wildlife staff's opinion that the boundary should be amended pursuant to the cooperative agreement's clause for doing that, which would involve a separate action of City Council at a future date, and also of the State Fish and Game Commission. So staff's recommendation is that you adopt the airport master plan, making the required environmental findings, including a statement of overriding considerations, which states generally that the benefits of the airport master plan outweigh the impact of cumulative traffic trip contributions in the immediate and intermediate and long-term time horizons. That you amend the airport industrial area specific plan to remove references to sub-area 1. That resolution is also included in your packet, but graphically it would look something like this. The dark blue area is sub-area 1, and we would take that out of the specific plan and put that in the airport master plan. Additionally, to rezone to replace the existing airport zoning map with the one that is proposed in your council agenda report, as I've already described, and then to make a recommendation to the California Coastal Commission to do the same thing to the LCP map, and finally to direct staff to work with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on amending the cooperative agreement. And that concludes staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, we do have public comment for this item, so I'm going to call them up now. If we can start with Maria Sastre, to be followed by Kurt Castad. Well, you're going to have to pronounce your last name for me from Signature. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Maria Sastre. I'm the President and Chief Operating Officer of Signature Flight Support. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Madam Mayor and council members, thank you for your service to the Santa Barbara community and specifically to the airport community at large. And Councilmember Murilla, congratulations on your upcoming mayoral term. I'm here today to just speak a little bit about Signature, but also to speak about the context of this very professional master plan development that's been undertaken here in Santa Barbara. We're one of the largest, we are the largest fixed-based operator in the world, and we have locations throughout the United States, Canada, and in Europe. 165 wholly owned operations and 30 joint ventures around the world. We're actively involved with local government, state, and federal authorities in airport planning and aviation policy. And we're very committed and very engaged in the vitality of the general aviation community, particularly because of some of the data that you just saw in this master plan presentation. Our industry is in a growth mode, in a very acute growth mode. And so the infrastructure that supports the growth in general aviation is very important to our industry. I also want to mention that over the years, we've been here for over 20 years in the Santa Barbara airport. We have a very close working relationship with the leaders that are here today in the aviation community. We do this in every community that we serve, but this airport in particular enjoys a very top-tier reputation for service, safety, security, environmental protection, and also for economic vitality. Unfortunately, we can't say the same for every airport that we operate in today. During the 20 years we've been here in Santa Barbara, we've developed a great working relationship with your airport management, the Airport Commission, some of whom are here today, and your two airport directors in particular, Karen Ramsdell and Hazel Johns. The two airport directors have done an outstanding job in helping us with day-to-day operations and the long-term master plan that you're reviewing and hopefully approving today.
You need to wind up, please.
Okay, I just want to mention one thing. I also want to thank the Airport Commission. The Airport Commission's done a great job in the planning, and we urge you to adopt the plan as presented today.
Thank you. Kirst, I don't know, tongue-tied looking at your last name, but just pronounce it for me, and then Steve Americano.
I just came up to correct my name. Kurt Castagna. I no longer need to Castagna. No longer need to speak.
Like lasagna.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now I got it.
Certainly here to support your airport staff. No longer need to speak. Thank you.
Oh, there we go. All right. Steve Americano, and then it says Gordon Feingold, letter to be written by Carl Hopkins. So, all right, Mr. Americano.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, hard as it may be to believe, I'm going to defer. I have no need to speak because everything I've said, I was going to say, have been said by other folks for signature. So thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Feingold, or actually Mr. Hopkins. As an airport commissioner, I'll let you do this. I know you want to speak as yourself a little later, but I'll give you that advice.
Thank you very much.
To do so now. Yep.
Gordon Feingold has been extremely involved with this process from day one back in 2011. Unfortunately, he was unable to be here today, so he asked me to read this letter into the record. Dear Mayor Schneider and council members, I am writing to express my support for the new airport master plan and urge you to adopt it. It has been a very thorough planning process, and your planning commission has vetted the exhaustive EAR and has recommended the adoption of the plan. This is long overdue. Our airport's general aviation facilities are substandard. It's time for action. I believe the westerly extension of the Taxiway Hotel on the north side of runway 725 is very important. Without that extension, there will be a substantial increase in required crossings of the main runway when taxiing for takeoff on runway 7 or aircraft exiting runway 25 at full length. This would increase the likelihood of runway incursions and potential accidents. The lack of a taxiway hotel extension would also increase the amount of time that the aircraft are on the ground taxiing for departure, increasing the effect of emissions and noises. I am reminded of the shift of runway 25 to the west several years ago that just after its completion prevented what would have been a tragic runway overrun accident and prevented what almost certainly would have been a discharge of fuel into the creek. So it is my belief that any negative impacts of building taxiway hotel extension will more than offset by the positive environmental and operational safety impacts as the extension will impart, and I strongly support the airfield recommendations aspect of the project.
Thank you. Paul Bowen and then Peter Imhoff. afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm a resident of the city of Goleta, and I'm here to speak in favor of the master plan. I'm very familiar with it. I've been involved with the airport now for more than 6 years. Some people jokingly refer to me as your 8th airport commissioner because I am not on the airport commission, but I'm always there. I think it's a very good plan. I think it's very necessary, and overall will benefit both the city of Santa Barbara and the city of Goleta.
Thank you. Mr. Imhoff?
Thank you, Mayor. Peter Imhoff, Planning Director for the City of Goleta. The City of Goleta would just like to go again on record under this item stating its opposition to the Airport Master Plan until such time as there is a legally adequate EIR that evaluates the impacts of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our commissioners, I don't know if you all want to come up at once, but Karen Kahn, Jim Wilson, and Carl Hopkins, however you want to.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'm Jim Wilson. Items 4 and 5 on today's agenda extended the leases of the fixed-base operators for 2 years. It's incumbent upon the airport to have in place our progress from that point. We have to do the detailed planning for the movement of the fixed-base operators. We have to develop a request for proposal. We have to receive proposals and evaluate them within that 2-year period. So it's imperative that the master plan be adopted very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Khan.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I'll be brief. The plan is a good one. The staff has worked very hard, as has the commission. We've looked at all the aspects. I think we have addressed as much as humanly possible all of the objections, and I hope that you will vote to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hopkins?
Madam Mayor, council members, as has been previously said, the master plan has been a progress for about 6 years now. A great deal of time and effort by the airport staff, by consultants, by all of the stakeholders involved in the airport has gone into this plan. There are numerous benefits. The one that has been spoken of highly is Taxiway Hotel. When we first started this planning back in December of 2011, the first thing the people in the air traffic control said was, from a safety standpoint, we want Taxiway Hotel extended. That wasn't their only requirement, but that was about 99% of what they wanted. The others were very minor issues. By moving the FBO from the southern part by the terminal to the north, not only do we consolidate all of the general aviation away from commercial, which is, in amongst other things, a safety aspect, but we also provide room for additional parking. For a while, as you know, we had to park cars over in the old drive-in theater. The shuttle back and forth cost the airport almost $1 million a year because it had to run continuously. In fact, we actually had to start that during some of the holiday period because of our increased traffic. As we get larger planes carrying more people, thank goodness, to these varying locations, including the American Airlines to Dallas, we get more cars there, and that area is needed for parking. So every aspect of this plan, I think, has been well thought out, excellent, and I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's to the council. Mr. Hotchkiss?
Madam Mayor, this all looks like a win-win-win-win to me, and clearly the people that know the most are backing it thoroughly, both from the commission side and the staff side. I would recommend that we move forward on all these when the time comes. I'll make that motion.
Okay. Mr. Dominguez?
I would echo the sentiments and thank staff and particularly the airport staff and our commission, our volunteers, and then my colleagues who were really the ones who spent 4 or 5 years on this. I've only dealt with it the last year and a half, and I think attachment 5 really says it all. And I don't know if this is something we can put up on the screen easily or not, but it shows all the public hearings we've had from September 11, 2011 forward. everything from Master Plan Advisory Committee, airport commissions, city councils, including the Goleta City Council, planning commissions, historic landmarks commission. So it's very impressive that we've had this kind of outreach and we've had the kind of participation from the public, including today. So I just want to thank everyone who's been involved in the process, and I'll definitely be supporting this motion.
Mr. Rouse?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this is obviously a natural extension of what we've done with the airport terminal, and moving the FBOs to the consolidated area in the north makes nothing but sense, especially if you've ever taxied across the main runway in a little tiny Cessna and thinking about who might be coming your way. So in terms of traffic circulation, hopscotching across Hollister to do overflow parking, all the things we've had to do up until this time, this makes nothing but sense to go forward, refurbish, and re-energize that entire area. And once again, it's going to be great for the whole region. So I think this is, as Mr. Hodgson said, a win-win.
Mr. Hart?
Yeah, I want to echo my council colleagues' comments and appreciate specifically Councilmember Dominguez putting up this appendix, because this attachment, because this does tell quite a story of collaborative decision-making, reaching out to the public in every way possible. I think Santa Barbara has a reputation for being very inclusive in its planning process, and this is really a concrete demonstration of that. The airport is a regionally significant economic entity. We had Dr. Rupert's study that indicates the economic spinoff of the airport exceeds the impact of the financial services industry in the South Coast. It is a major part of the economy. Its spinoff effects for many, many industries is critical. The technology industries, tourism, travel, education all depend on the increasingly better access to markets all around the country through our airport. And this master plan is a really thoughtful, well-developed tool to guide the next extension of that development at the airport. So I appreciate the work that everybody has done, staff, all the participants from the Airport Commission to the tenants at the airport. This is an excellent work product.
Mr. White?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'd like to allude back to the 2003 plan as well, which so much good work that was implemented out of that. And it really has shown the airport as a whole to be a really class act. That piece ended up providing rehabilitation of more of the wetlands than was required by law at that time. A great big project there. The alteration of the creek there, which was a really successful project. Always that balancing act with bird strikes and all. It's been an amazing balancing act for me to watch during all of my years on Planning Commission as well as Council, and it's just been really top-notch work. And of course I am dismayed that we're ending up in this conflict situation with our sibling community to the west. It's really a sad piece of the puzzle for me. I'm very enthusiastic about this project and look forward to the pieces that are being proposed here.
Well, I'll first thank everyone involved in putting this together over the many years, and simply said, the economic vitality of the whole south coast of Santa Barbara County would not be what it is if the airport was not there. It is a vital part of what makes not just the city of Santa Barbara, but the county, the cities of Goleta and Carpinteria, and actually the whole region, be able to do what they do and to attract not only the tourism, but the vast number of businesses and tech companies and university work throughout the region. So we got that great economic impact report, and so we want to make sure that we plan into the future correctly, that we do it in a way that balances really what is not the most ideal location for an airport, being that it's in a slough, but that's where it is, and we inherited that from decades ago, and balancing that with safety and ease of access. I do want to acknowledge the Audubon Society had some concerns about the extension of the runway, and I had a meeting with them several months ago, and I know there was a letter sent to us just recently about that, and I take their view very seriously. I also want to acknowledge the additional mitigation that is going to occur because of the extension to the runway, and as was mentioned earlier, the FAA looking into safety issues, at that being their top priority, plus the past experience we had when the relocation of the creek happened really just in time for that incident. Had that creek not been relocated at that point, I think we would have had a fatality, one if not more. So we were fortunate to be able to do it there. So I know you take care of that part very well. There's good partnership there. I hope to continue those partnerships in a strong way, and hope to see the continued success of Santa Barbara Airport for everyone involved, whether you live here or visiting or doing business. So, Mr. Hotchkiss, you wanted to make a motion.
I do, Madam Mayor. As liaison to the airport, I would like, it's an honor to move that we adopt the master plan in all its parts. Do we need to read each one, or can we just, all right, then I'll just make it easy. A, B, C, D, and E.
Great.
And I would say that this is one of the real jewels in the crown of Santa Barbara that distinguishes us from our competition up and down the coast.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Hotchkiss, second by Dominguez. So I will, any other comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more item, item 28.
Item 28, appointments to city advisory groups.
Okay, so just as a reminder about how this will work, first to thank everyone who has served on a board and commission, especially those incumbents who are either asking to continue or who are not. But it's their volunteerism is a huge part of what makes the city work. And some of these decisions are always very difficult every time. So what we're going to do is go through the boards and commissions alphabetically. If you have any nominations, that's what needs to happen first. We need to nominate the individuals, and then we can call for a vote at that point. I want to acknowledge there was a memorandum from the Youth Council, so just to make sure you saw that. And so with that, we're all ready to go, I guess. You're it, Monday. Okay, you're going to go for it. All right, so first we'll start with the Access Advisory Committee. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Marston and Burnham, please.
Okay, any other nominations?
Lesnar Buxton.
Okay. So do you want to move by acclamation? Is there a motion?
Yes.
Okay, moved by Hotchkiss, second by Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Airport Commission. So we have a number of applicants, only 2 vacancies, so you can, but I'll ask for nominations first. Any
If I
nominations?
could, Madam Mayor, as the liaison, I'd like to reiterate that Carl Hopkins and James Wilson, as they have demonstrated here already this evening, have a really great knowledge and have done a very good job. And I would like to see them continue for a second term each.
Okay, all right. Any other nominations? Okay.
Moved by acclamation.
All right, Hopkins and Wilson by acclamation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rouse. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Airport. Architectural Board of Review, there's 2 applicants and 1 vacancy.
I nominate Cunningham.
Okay, any other nominations?
Moved by acclamation.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Dominguez. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so Cunningham. All right, Arts Advisory, there are 4 vacancies. There's a number of applicants, and any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Jenga, Tepper, and Thralls.
I'm sorry, so Thralls, Tepper, and Jenka. Okay, any other nominations?
Adams.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Dunbar, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, so let's have a roll call. You can vote for up to 4, and anyone with 4 or more votes gets a seat. We'll see if we need to do a runoff.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Adams, Jenka, Thralls. Was Keller nominated?
No, she wasn't.
No, okay. Those 3.
Okay.
Councilmember White.
Adams, Janka, Tepper, and Thralls.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Adams, Jenka, Tepper, and Thralls.
Councilmember Rouse.
Adams, Tepper, Thralls, Dunbar.
Councilmember Hart.
Adams, Jenka, Tepper, and Thralls.
Councilmember Murillo.
Adams, Tepper, Thralls, Dunbar.
Mayor Schneider.
Adams, Jenka, Tepper, and Thralls. So the ones with 4 or more votes are Adams, Jenka, Tepper, and Thralls. Okay, that was a tough one. All right. Central Coast Commission for Senior Citizens.
Move by acclamation.
Mr. however you pronounce his
I didn't want to say that, so I just said acclamation.
Okay, moved by Rouse, second by White. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Move on to Community Development and Human Services Committee.
Gulat Moore by acclamation.
Second.
All right, Murillo motion, second by White. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Downtown Parking Committee. There are 3 vacancies, 2 applicants.
Move by acclamation.
Second.
All right, that's Pinner and Pratt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Fire and Police Commission.
Move by
Parker
acclamation.
Stedman.
Okay, Mr. Stedman, just
Has
so
another one
he
also.
also asked to be on the Harbor Commission as his first choice. So I don't know what.
Then
you
I will
wanted
just
to
say
do about-
Parker.
I mean, we can go back if that doesn't happen with the Harbor Commission, but right. I'm sorry. So Parker was nominated. Anyone else?
I'd nominate Stedman.
All right. So
I think we asked him about it, and he said he'd be willing to do both, and he seemed highly competent. And if it's that or not having an extra person, maybe having him would be
okay.
an
So
option.
just to say, if we appoint him to 2, if he chooses, he can stay. If he wants to withdraw from 1, he can tell the clerk that, and then there'll be a vacancy. So that's another way to look at it.
By acclamation, then.
All right. Moved by Hotchkiss. There a second?
Second.
Second by Rouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Harbor Commission. 3 vacancies.
Move by acclamation. Second.
Okay. Sly, Stedman, and Sloan. Moved by Hart, second by Rouse. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So if the clerk can let Mr. Stedman know he has those options, he can do what he wishes. All right. Historic Landmarks Commission. Let's do the licensed architect first, and then.
Madam Mayor,
Yep.
Ed Lenvik said that he would defer to Bill Mahan. However, since he's no longer a practicing architect but a retired, could we move his category to public at large?
All 3 could be public. Any one of the applicants could be public at large.
All right, then I would nominate Lenvik, Mahan, and Bassan.
Well, that doesn't work.
It doesn't work,
Because there's only 1 public at large opening.
Oh, I see.
So why don't we do the licensed architect position first?
Mahan.
Is there any other nomination for the licensed architect? Okay, is there a motion?
Move by acclamation.
Is there a second? Motion by White, second by Rouse. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now the public at large, if there's any nominations.
Move Lenvik.
Any other nominations?
Basson.
Okay, so now we need a roll call for either Lenvik or Basson for the 1 position.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Lenvik,
Councilmember White.
Lenvik.
Councilmember Dominguez. Councilmember Rouse.
Lenvik.
Councilmember Hart.
Lenvik.
Councilmember Murillo.
Basin.
Mayor Schneider.
Lenvik. So Lenvik is appointed. Okay. Housing Authority Commission.
Move by acclamation.
Second.
Actually, just to be clear, there was an amended piece, but so both applicants are eligible to serve or be nominated, but because I got that memo today, right? Just to be clear. So we need a nomination.
Sorry.
Mr. Sir, any other nominations? Okay. Now, is there a motion? Did you want to move that?
You confused.
Yeah, there's a nomination. I'm asking if there are any other nominations. So now there's only 1 nomination.
Move, sir.
Okay, so move, sir. Mr. Rouse? Is there a second? Second. Second by Dominguez. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Library Board, any nominations? Mr. Hess, any other nominations?
was that Hess? You
Yes.
nominated?
Yep.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes is a yes.
Okay, is there a motion for Hess?
Move by acclamation.
Yep. Okay, White motion, second by Hotchkiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. There we go. Neighborhood Advisory Council.
Aldana. And once again, Madam Mayor, we have Mr. Penn, I have to say the name now, Penn Bitchy was
Yes.
appointed, so with the same situation as before.
Yep, if he needed to do that. So we want to, are we moving, is there nominated for both Aldana and Penn Betchy?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Parks and Recreation, 3 applicants, 2 vacancies. So
Perry
any-
and McGill.
McGill and Zacharias.
Okay, so we need a roll call for, and you can vote for up to 2.
Oh, did we nominate Perry?
Yes, all 3
Okay.
have been nominated.
Okay.
So if we can have a roll call, please, and vote for up to 2.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
McGill and Perry.
Councilmember White.
McGill, Zacharias.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Perry Zacharias.
Councilmember Rouse.
McGill, Perry.
Councilmember Hart.
McGill, Perry.
Councilmember Murillo.
McGill, Perry.
Mayor Schneider.
McGill, Zacharias. So we have McGill, Perry, who are appointed. Okay. All right. Planning Commission, nominations.
Schwartz,
Jordan.
Any other nominations?
Kramer.
Okay, so we can have a roll call. You can vote for up to 2.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Jordan, Schwartz.
Councilmember White.
Kramer, Jordan.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Kramer Jordan.
Councilmember Rouse.
Jordan Schwartz.
Councilmember Hart.
Jordan Schwartz.
Councilmember Murillo.
Jordan Schwartz.
Mayor Schneider.
Kramer, Jordan. So Jordan and Schwartz are appointed. Okay. Rental Housing Mediation Board. The homeowner, there's 1 slot and 4 vacancies. I mean, sorry, one applicant to 1 homeowner vacancy. So, Mr. Herlinger? Actually, and there's 3 landlord and 3 slots, so
Move by acclamation.
want to move those 4? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right, Youth Council. We have...
Madam Mayor, I
Yep.
move the Youth Council recommendation, which is Stefan and Hernandez. And I would like to offer Ms. Jimenez Cortez an internship in my office, and her primary assignment would be attending the Youth Council meetings.
There you go.
She won't be able to vote, but we'll get her on a committee, and she can apply for the May appointment. If I could just make that happen. She seemed like a great gal, young woman.
All right, any other nominations? We have Stefan and Hernandez. All right, moved by Murillo, second by Hotchkiss. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Well,
Single Family Design Board.
Ziegler Farrell.
Carnes.
Okay, so Ziegler fits in the professional qualifications. If we could get a motion for Ziegler.
Ziegler.
All right, moved by Rouse, second. Is there a second?
For Ziegler?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, second by Hotchkiss. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we have 1 spot for public at large, either Farrell or Carnes, so we need a roll call vote. You can vote for 1.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Farrell.
Councilmember White.
Farrell.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Farrell.
Councilmember Rouse.
Carnes.
Councilmember Hart.
Carnes.
Councilmember Murillo.
Carnes.
Mayor Schneider.
Farrell. That was close. So Farrell got it. Is that all of them? We got everything?
We got it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, good. Before we go, do you have any council member committee assignment reports? Mr. Rouse.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended yesterday's briefing by Edison on the Goleta Resiliency Plan. When they say Goleta, that means this entire area. And Edison was very clear in outlining how our lines and our redundancy and the different systems that service go, but also are concerned about what happens with the peaker plant in the future, the status of that, whether or not it can be redone. It's not their peaker plant; they actually contract with it. So in our long-term resiliency is going to be important to determine what we're going to do with that. So I think at least Edison is engaged in into our area, and we'll be following that pretty closely because it's pretty critical right now.
Great. Mr. White.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My notes from the Housing Task Force meeting are in one pile or another in my moving out of our house. So, but by memory, I can tell you that the Housing Task Force approved some modest improvements to or increases in parking requirements for the AUD, and secondly. Secondly, we saw the full rainbow of suggestions on when to require inclusionary, to put rental inclusionary requirements on projects, all the way from let's get it going right now to let's defer it for practically the indefinite future. So that's going to be an interesting topic for future councils to deal with. And secondly, the whole central business district is going to be a focus of the task force, if it exists in the future. Hopefully it will be, to basically take on the central business district and its requirements, its incentives for allowing residential housing in the future. I think that's going to be a very interesting and not easy discussion.
Mr. Dominguez.
What he said, plus just to throw in just a word to anyone who's interested in housing issues, that the task force is accomplishing a lot of great work right now. So please come attend one of our meetings, read the agenda report, give us your feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Mr. Hart.
I think I missed last week, but the IBEW had its annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony in front of the Ralph's grocery store at the corner of Chapala and Carrillo Street. And this is a really incredible Santa Barbara tradition that the union lights that tree every year, and it's nearly a 100-year anniversary of that effort. They're checking the records, the historical records of the city, to determine exactly when that 100-year anniversary is so that they can properly celebrate it. But I just want to thank the IBEW for doing that, maintaining a Santa Barbara tradition for a really long time. And I think one thing that wasn't mentioned when we were thanking all the first responders and other folks involved in the fire are the utility workers that are keeping the power on, that are also IBEW work union members, and want to thank them for all their work during this critical time too.
Ms. Murillo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to add that someone climbs that tree and goes up in there and hangs the lights. So quite a spectacle. I'd just like to thank Councilmember White for being the chair of the Housing Task Force, and Mr. Dominguez sang his praises at the Housing Task Force meeting, but I'd like to say in chambers here how it was not an easy subject and a lot of differing opinions, and it took a lot of strength and courage to lead those meetings, so thank you.
Great. Well, I know next month we'll have a much more ceremonial item coming up. This is our last meeting of substantive voting before I step down, so I just wanted to take a moment and first thank staff for just being able to work with a stellar staff, and I'll go into much more detail next month, but really also want to thank my colleagues for being as respectful and diligent and taking the position with honor and working with each other, and we can disagree without being disagreeable, and it's been an honor to serve as mayor these last 8 years. And so I just sort of one simple thing with an empty room. There'll be a full one, I would hope, come January 9th to celebrate Mayor-elect Murillo and the re-election of Councilmember Hart. But it's truly been an honor to serve with you all. So just wanted to say that now. So there. Thank you. Okay, and with that, we are done for 2017. We will be back in here on January 9th and hope the fires subside soon. Hope people have a safe and wonderful holiday season. So we are adjourned.